Hey guys, welcome to Fanfic Fanatics. So in today's video we are gonna see, what if Deku had immortality and fell in love with Toga Himiko? Part 2, Final. Before starting, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you are interested in MHA fanfictions. This story is Flatline by BloodOfTheCore. Now without wasting any more time, let's dive in. Izuku woke up with a major headache. His sheets were drenched red. Shit. Izuku, are you okay? Ejiro asked as Izuku gathered his sheets. Just a little quirk overuse. I've been keeping a bunch of quirks going constantly. The blood would be from blood control. It's been a while since my quirks have overwhelmed my super regeneration. I must be getting close to my current limit. Maybe I should be on the lookout for another regeneration quirk, but I don't think anything I find will ever be close to super regeneration. Even Lizard Tail Splitter requires the loss of a whole limb of organ to replace it, and it's still slow. Yeah. Maybe you should go easy on the copying for now. That night, after dinner, they were called to a clearing in the forest. It's time for Ryuko Tsuchikawa began. A totally awesome test of courage, Mina finished. Not so fast, Shota said. It pains me to say it, but the remedial class will be having lessons with me tonight instead. You gotta be kidding me. Halfway through the first round, Izuku noticed blue flames over the trees. Shit. Wood can't burn hot enough to create blue fire. That's a quirk. We're under attack. Ryuko Tsuchikawa flew towards Kenji, who slammed her to the ground with her magnet. First, let's get rid of these feral cats, Kenji said. Shino and Yuara blocked the students from engaging. I'm going after Koda. Izuku flew off. Papa, Mama, Koda screamed as Goto went to punch him. Izuku grabbed Koda, saving him from the punch which shook the mountain. Hey, you were on the list, Goto said. I'm not allowed to kill you, but I can beat the hell out of you. This is going to be fun. Show me your blood. Goto punched Izuku into the mountain's side. Izuku went through it and shot back out, punching Goto, knocking him back. Goto's muscles rippled out of his body and reattached themselves, making him even stronger. He kicked Izuku, the leg going through him without connecting. You're really annoying, aren't you? I'm immune to physical attacks. You might as well just surrender. You might be, but what about the kid? Goto punched towards Koda. Izuku blocked the punch, snapping his arm in the process. This guy is strong enough to overpower shock absorption. Maybe if I die here I could give his quirk to All Might. But I can't, I need to protect Koda. Koda, run. Stay away from the gas and the flames, and keep yourself hidden. Alright. Koda ran in the opposite direction. And where do you think you're going? Goto jumped in front of Koda. He went to kick Koda before the muscles which were starting to grow shot away from his leg and wrapped back up, making him kick himself. What the hell? Those muscles count as small objects, at least when they're just attached at one end. You're like a puppet with 1,000 strings. Izuku stated. He then coughed up blood. Ice formed along the ground and froze Goto in place. Go now, Koda. Koda resumed running. You little shit. Goto broke free of the ice and shot towards Izuku. Izuku jumped over Goto and pulled on his muscles, wrapping them around Goto. Goto created even more muscles, becoming almost completely concealed under his muscle fibers. As soon as Izuku touched the ground, Goto kicked Izuku's leg, snapping it. Fuck. Just my luck that it was my right limb both times. And here I thought you said you were immune to physical attacks. But all I had to do was try to kill a kid to make you wear yourself too thin. He raised both fists above Izuku. Die. Water hit his face. What now? Remember water hose? My mom, and my dad. Did you torment the two of them, too? Before you killed them? Huh, seriously? Those losers were your parents? Well then, this must be fate. The water hose heroes, they're the reason I have an artificial eye in my left socket right now. This is all your fault. Nothing in the world is right anymore, and it's because of crazy people like you. Little kids are so quick to say it's someone else's fault. Don't get the wrong idea, it's not like I took them out because I was mad about the whole lie thing. I wanted to kill people, it's as simple as that, and those two tried to stop me. What happened was the result of all of us doing our best. The real travesty is promising to do something you aren't able to do. That's why your dear old mummy and daddy died. He went to punch Koda before noticing Izuku jumped towards him. Nice try with the sneak attack, but I'm ready. Izuku telegraphed a punch with his left arm whilst the right pulled on Goto's artificial eye. Goto countered the punch as Izuku head-butted him. Aw. Fuck, that hurts. Izuku whined. I'm never going to get rid of this headache. He began shooting icicles into Goto's limbs. Get going, kid. One last attack should do it. I'm not done yet, Goto screamed. Yeah, Izuku screamed at Goto, point blank, shattering Goto's eardrums and artificial eye and ripping apart his muscles before knocking him out. Hey, are you okay, mister? Kota asked. Izuku pointed towards the cabin. Alright. Izuku picked up Goto and threw him off the mountain. I should regroup as well, there might be others who need help. He flew off the mountain and towards the fire. When he got there he heard a scream. He flew down, seeing Tomoko backing away from Dabi. Izuku created a wall of ice in front of Tomoko right as Dabi sent another blast of fire. Ice? Dabi asked. He grinned. Well, He looked up. Oh, this is disappointing. Well, now I have 2 from the list. He shot blue flames at Izuku who flew over them. You look terrible, and naked. You should probably just give up. And don't think about running, ragdoll. I can split my attention. Fire spewed from each of his hands. Naked. Right. I flew through that mountain and I'm not wearing one of my costumes. Well, I've fought naked before. Izuku felt his arm fully heal. He shot into the ground and punched Dabi from beneath. You're powerful, but foolish, Dabi said. Pretending to be a hero, he pointed an arm towards Tomoko and the other followed Izuku. It makes you weak? Blue flames erupted from both arms. Izuku flew in front of Tomoko, taking both blasts. Himiko was sneaking away from the growing fire. Your talents would be squandered as a hero, Atsuhiro said, standing in the trees above her. We'll provide you with a grander stage. One where you can truly shine. He stretched out his arm and Himiko backflipped away from Atsuhiro right before he touched her. You were so much greater in your earlier performance. And now with Stain gone, you can make a grand debut as his successor. All you have to do is take my hand. Tempting, but I always wanted to be hero, Himiko countered, and they've given me acceptance. She continued to dodge his advances. But do they accept you, or is that all a performance? With the league, we were all side characters, cast aside. We have no need to play such a part, you would have no concerns regarding our sincerity. And what of that boyfriend of yours? Are you sure he has the role you bell? Mashirao slammed his tail into Atsuhiro. Sorry we got split up by the fire. Do you know what this guy's quirk is? No, but I don't think we should get close, damn it. You were not cast for this scene. Atsuhiro threw a marble at Mashirao. It broke into a boulder which slammed into him. Anyway, where were we? So he has some sort of projectile quirk? I should save my energy for dodging those attacks. Himiko jumped over the bushes lining the path, sinking into the darkness. A marble shot towards her. She jumped to the side as it broke, resulting in a flash of blinding light and deafening sound. Makeshift flashbang, my dear. Sorry about that, but I need to play my part. As Ochako and Sue were making their way back to the clearing, they ran into pink gas. That's not good, we should go around that, Ochako said. Ribbit. Sue croaked. She grabbed Ochako and swung through the trees until they were back on the path. They ran for a little longer before running into Katsuki and Shoto fighting Moonfish. What's going on? Why are you two here? Shoto asked. I thought Hagakure and Jiru, and Aoyama and Yaoyorozu were before you. Where are they? Ochako shivered. You don't think they're in that smoke, do you, Sue? She began turning around. Stop. Katsuki ordered. If that gas is poisonous, you're just adding 2 more bodies. Go and find help. Either somebody who can get through the gas or somebody who can defeat this motherfucker. He pouted. His creepy teeth keeps regenerating. All right. Ochako responded. She and Sue ran into the forest. They eventually heard trees breaking and snuck over to the sound. Dark shadow was tearing through the forest. What is happening? What is Tokiyami doing? Get away from me! Fumikage yelled. Mezzo pulled the girls aside. He was trying to hold his quirk back, but we were caught in an attack and I got injured, triggering Dark Shadow. So now he's on a rampage? Sue asked. Yes, it's too dark for him to control it. What if we gave him a challenger? Ochako asked. What do you mean? Mezzo asked. Get his attention, and run with this, Ochako said. Alright. Hope you know what you're doing. He ran in front of Dark Shadow waving all his arms around. Hey, over here. What are you doing, Shoji? Fumikage asked. I don't know. Mezzo began running with the girls as Fumikage followed, tearing through the forest. They made their way back to Katsuki and Shoto and let Dark Shadow attack Moonfish until Moonfish was defeated. Then Katsuki and Shoto created enough fire to calm Dark Shadow. Thanks. How did you help the others? Shoto looked to where the smoke was dissipating. We didn't, Ochako said. Guess they had it covered. What now? Ribbit, Sue asked. Obviously we attack whoever's burning the forest, Katsuki declared. You mean walk into the fire? Mezzo asked. I won't be able to do much, Fumikage said. The group got to the center of the fire where Warp Gate was already open and Dabi was standing outside. I'm afraid you're too late, he said. We've already captured our targets. See you later, Shoto. He walked through the gate. Wait, targets? Ochako asked. We need to regroup with everybody else, now. Mashirao woke up in hospital right before most of 1A walked into the room. Is everybody okay? He asked. Where the new girl? 1A looked down. They kidnapped her, Midoriya too, Tenya said. Juru and Hagakuri are unconscious from the gas and Yaoyorozu got a bad hit to the head, she's also in the hospital. I failed, I was there, I could have protected her. That's why I learned marital arts. Her quirk isn't physical. Alright. Then let's go get them, Eijiro said. I was here yesterday, too. And so was Todoroki. We were on the way to visit you when we saw Lemillion and a police officer talking with Yaoyorozu. She's made a tracking device with a receiver that will lead the heroes to the villain's base. This means you're going to have Yaoyorozu make another receiver for you, doesn't it? Tenya asked. What if it does? Shoto asked. We have to leave this to the professionals, Tenya declared. It's not the right time for us to get involved, idiots. Maybe, but all I know is that at Camp 1 couldn't do anything, Eijiro countered. I heard my friends were being attacked and I just stood by, helpless. So if I just stand by and do nothing now, how am I supposed to call myself a hero, or a man? What Iida said is true, Sue said. All of you, just listen to me for a minute, Eijiro pleaded. I know what you're saying is right. But still, they're still within our reach. We can save them. May I suggest I go instead? They heard a voice behind them and turned around, seeing Flatline. I heard my brother and girlfriend were kidnapped. I can get them back without future heroes jeopardizing their careers. Izumi? Tenya asked. Glad to see you weren't planning on joining them, hero hopeful. Himiko took note of her surroundings. She was strapped to a chair in the middle of a bar. She noticed something beside her and noticed it was Izuku, seemingly passed out and looking charred. Are you okay? She asked him. He didn't respond. A black cloud appeared behind the bar as several people, including the one who attacked her, walked into the room. So, one of the new recruits has awoken, Tamura said. New recruit? Why would I join you stupid villains? Himiko asked, sticking out her tongue. I'm a hero. You've killed a lot of innocent people for a hero, don't you want to go back to the freedom you once had? I lived that life out of desperation, and out of respect for Izumi and Stain. Izumi? Is that Flatline? Yes, and I bet he's coming here right now to beat all of your asses? It's going to be hard to do that when he's tied up beside you and unconscious. That's his brother, Izuku, is it? Isn't his name, Izuku Midoriya? Izu-mi? Himiko just glared at Tamura. Well, you have the rest of your life to decide, and if your boyfriend does show up, well, look at Izuku. Izuku's burns had mostly healed by now. What the hell is this? Katsuki asked. What are you doing here, Deku? I feel you have me confused with my brother, the name's Izumi, Flatline responded. Fuck off. Deku doesn't have a brother. Well, I certainly feel real. I could punch you if it would prove my corporealness. I'm not a ghost like my brother. Are you looking for a fight, Deku? Katsuki pushed towards Flatline. Nah, you're not challenging enough for me. Just tell me where Yaoyorozu's room is. Room 316, Tenya said. Now please don't fight in a hospital. Thank you. Flatline walked away. What the hell are you doing, Deku? Katsuki grumbled. Izuku opened his eyes. He was covered in black mist. He was standing on dark stone and the sky was a black void. Where am I? He turned around and noticed 4 tall chairs. Sat in the middle 2 were figures glowing gold and in the other 2 were a man and a woman. He tried to talk but couldn't produce a sound. This is your mindscape, Yoichi said. You aren't ready to fully manifest yourself here. Izuku pointed to the black mist on his body. That's not Jack if you're wondering, Nana said. He should be able to appear here, but it seems he isn't here right now. Yoichi continued. This mindscape is created by my quirk, transfer. I believe Mirio told you about the previous users appearing to him. He pointed to one of the golden figures. Listen, you've been captured by the villains. You can't let my brother steal your quirk. He'll be unstoppable, even worse than if he gets one for all. You may have to play along to not agitate them, but he's good at reading people. He'll know you're tricking him if you're not careful. Just play it like you're considering joining, Nana explained. If they think they're getting somewhere they'll get overexcited. Izuku felt himself waking up. He closed his eyes and when he opened them he was in a bar. He felt something grab his wrists. Looking down he noticed it was a quirk cancellation cuff that suddenly appeared, as if out of nowhere. He instantly felt overwhelming pain, before vomiting blood. Fuck. I thought the fear was bad, that regeneration is really something. His skin began to quickly peel and char again, especially around his hands as his old scars reappeared, although they were mostly hidden by his peeling and burnt skin. Tamura, I'd suggest you show our guests some hospitality, Kurogiri said. I'd rather not have to clean up any more than I already do. Why not? We're recruiting them, so we should treat them as equals, Tamura said. Dabi, release them. They'll just attack us, Dabi said. They can try, Tamura said. We'll kill at least one of them if they try. Twice, you do it, Dabi said. No way, Jin objected. Sure. Do it, Dabi ordered. Jin walked over to them and removed their restraints. We are here to apologize, Shota said at a press conference where he sat alongside Nezu and Sekijiro. A recent incident allowed harm to come to 27 first-year heroes. And we staff were ill-prepared. We take full responsibility for any trauma caused by our negligence. It's our duty to train heroes, but also to protect heroes in training. I'll take the first question, a reporter said. Since the beginning of the year, UA students have had 4 encounters with villains. This time there were students who were gravely injured. How did you explain this to their families? And what are some of the specific steps you're taking to ensure their safety in the future? We will increase patrols around the school grounds, and review security measures within the school, Nezu said. The safety of UA's students is our main priority, make no mistake about it. Well, would you look at that? Tamura asked, watching the press conference. The heroes are becoming the bad guys. Looks like they're not dealing with this well at all. So much criticism. But everyone makes a mistake or two, right? It's not like they're supposed to be perfect. Modern-day heroes sure have it rough. What do you two think? Once a hero receives payment to protect people, they aren't a real hero anymore, Shuichi said. You two worked under Stain, you should know about that. A hero in this current system only cares about money and glory, Tamura continued. And since society only cares about those idiotic rules, anyone deemed a loser is shoved aside. That's why we'll be better heroes, Himiko said. Real heroes. I have no glory, yet I'm a hero. I only care about having enough money to live off, and I want to save others. Isn't that right, Izuku? Give me a second, Izuku said, half awake and feeling like he was going to vomit again, his wounds still healing. We want to pose some questions, Tamura said. What is a hero? What is justice? Is this society truly fair? Soon everyone will be asking. That's when we'll know we've won. Don't you want to win? I do apologize for such forceful methods, Atsuhiro said. But please understand that we aren't some kind of unruly mob committing crimes without a third act in mind. We didn't kidnap you two by accident. Even though our backgrounds are different, everyone here has suffered, Tamura said. Because of people, rules, and heroes who try to hold us back. I know you're the same. You're so boring, Himiko complained. How have you still not gotten to the point? Where are my knives? There's not enough blood here. Just burns. You spoke about keeping the students safe, Eraserhead, a reporter said. But according to our information, you encouraged them to fight during our attack on the training camp, putting them in grave danger. What was your reasoning for this? I concluded that because we didn't know the full situation, allowing them to use their quirks would help them avoid the worst possible outcome, Shota explained. And what would that outcome be? The reporter asked. Do you think that 25 victims and 2 kidnapped students is a win for UA? I assure you that things could have gone far more poorly. I feared every student would be tortured and killed in the end. Most of the victims were harmed by the gas attack, Nezu explained. We've determined it to be the result of a poisonous quirk used by one of the villains. It's thanks to the quick actions of Miss Kendo and Mr. Tetsu that injuries were kept to a bare minimum. Additionally, we're providing mental health counseling to every student, though at the moment, we do not see any signs of serious psychological trauma. So you've found a bright spot in this tragedy? The reporter asked. We're relieved that a bright class of burgeoning students still has a future. Can you say the same thing for the abducted, Izuku Midoriya and Himiko Toga? These two grew up on the streets. They didn't know each other personally but had a mutual connection through Izumi Midoriya. Izuku Midoriya tried to take his own life at 14 and when that failed became the vigilante known as Flatline. Himiko Toga was abandoned by her family who still have yet to show up in her life again. She and Izumi Midoriya were trained by the hero killer. All three have racked up a body count higher than Endeavor before turning 18. When they do turn 18, the three are welcomed to UA with open arms, which Izumi turns down to take over as Flatline. What if this past is the real reason the villains kidnapped them? What if they're brainwashing them into turning back to crime right now? How can you sit there and tell us they still have a future? Shota stood and bowed. While it is true that these students' pasts are troubling, they were born out of a necessity for survival and the possession of quirks which pushed their owners to use them. The two became vigilantes because as far as they could tell, society would not let them be heroes. The hero killer training Himiko Toga did not stop her from desiring to be a hero and has given her the drive to be a better hero. Izuku Midoriya spent his vigilante career saving heroes. He even ran into me several times and could have killed me at a couple opportunities. It's because of these pasts that these two are trying harder than anybody else to be the best heroes. If the villains think they have a chance with them, then they are grossly mistaken. I can guarantee you that much. That doesn't amount to real evidence, though, the reporter said. I didn't ask you how you feel, I asked if you had concrete information. We're doing our best with the intel we currently have available, Nezu said. I have no doubt the police will break this case, very soon. We won't rest until our missing students are returned to UA. Flatline got to the end of the tracker. In front of him was an enormous warehouse building. He climbed up to a window and peeked in. Inside were vats, each holding a Nomu. Well, that will be a problem. But I don't see Izuku. Maybe while I'm here I could take them out. He noticed something. There's something else here. It feels like an even greater number of quirks in an individual than Izuku. So many that the Nomu aren't overpowering it. Could it be him? Yu picked up a ute with her foot and slammed it down onto the warehouse, smashing it open as the heroes and police accompanying her ran inside to capture the Nomu and retrieve Tomoko. Somebody knocked on the door to the bar. Hello? I got a pizza delivery here? Power. Mirio punched through the wall where Shuchi was standing. Kurogiri. Gate. Tamura commanded. Preemptive binding. Shinji swung in after Mirio. Lacquered chain prison. He restrained all the villains. Huh? That's it? Dabi asked, burning the wood. Sorihiko jumped through the hole and kicked his head, knocking Dabi out. Shinya squeezed through the door. One tends to neglect defense when they're on the offense. But we didn't come alone. He unlocked the door, revealing a squad of police with riot gear. You're surrounded by the police, not to mention powerful heroes like Endeavor. Sorry to keep you two waiting, Mirio grinned at Izuku and Himiko. After I went through all the trouble of preparing this, the final boss goes and shows up on my doorstep, Tamura complained. Everyone's been restrained. There's no easy way to escape. It can't be helped. So they've got backup, huh? Well, we do too. Kurogiri. Warp over as many as you can. What are you waiting for, damn it? I'm sorry, Tamura Shigaraki, Kurogiri apologized. The Nomu were supposed to be in a fixed location, but they're gone. Sorry about that. Mirio laughed. We already took care of the Nomu. I guess it's over now. You think it's over? Tamura asked, slowly standing against Shinji's bindings. I've only just begun to play. Justice, peace. You've created a garbage society by lifting up such ridiculous ideals. That's why I started gathering people for my cause. Do you think this is the end? Then you've lost, Kurogiri. Shinya shot through Kurogiri, knocking him out. Ninpo, Thousand Sheet Pierce. You'll all be better off if you take us seriously, Sorihiko said. Kenji Hikiishi, Atsuhiro Seiko, Shuichi Iguchi, Jin Bubaigawara. Though they had little time, the police worked through the night to discover your true identities. Do you understand? There's nowhere left for any of you to run. So, Shigaraki, one question. Where is your boss hiding? No. This is not over. Tamura declared as gray sludge appeared around him, Nomu appearing in the sludge. The sludge then started coming out of the mouths of the villains as well as Himiko and Izuku. They then disappeared. Come in, Genist. Naomasa yelled into his radio. What the hell is going on over there? No answer, Genist. I'm going to the other hideout. Mirio yelled, his smile fading. It must be him. All for One floated over the heroes who attacked the warehouse. Flatline watched around the corner. Should I step in? I'm here for Himiko and Izuku. Where are Th sludge appeared around All for One, out of which fell the villains and hostages. They're here now. I just need an opening. My apologies, All for One said. He walked towards Tamura. So, you failed once more, Tamura. But you must not be discouraged. You'll try again. That's why I brought your associates back with you. Even these hostages, because you judged that they were important pieces on your name board. He held his hand out to Tamura. Start over as many times as it takes. I am here to provide you with help. All of this is for you. They're behind him now. Flatline leapt over the wall separating them and began sneaking towards the two hostages, arms ready to access his weapons. Ah, there you are, All for One said. Power? Mirio slammed into All for One. All for One stopped the blow and countered, blowing up the surrounding area. That attack was not all physical, it countered my permeation. If I hadn't been permeated it probably would have done serious damage. You're pretty strong, Mirio said. He rushed forward, and All for One held up his arm which swelled before producing a powerful shockwave which sent Mirio back and destroyed several blocks of buildings. All for One is busy. Where did Himiko and Izuku go? Flatline looked around before seeing Izuku struggling to stand. Flatline ran over to Izuku whilst the chaos was still taking the focus. I'm here. I got you a present from Recovery Girl. He held a vial out to Izuku. They're stem cells. Hawks has more in an ambulance not far from here, you'll need them. Did you see where Himiko went? Izuku drank the vial's contents, and he immediately felt a lot better as his wounds quickly started healing. She's over there. He pointed to where the remaining conscious villains were. The villains were crowding around Himiko, seemingly unsure if they could attack. They probably don't know her quirk. I'll get her to you. Then you fly away. Following the feathers, Flatline pulled off his knife belt and threw it over to Himiko. She grinned when she saw it. Sorry I'm late for the party. He ran over to the villains and pulled out his machine pistols, and just when it was ending. Izumi. What the hell? Tamura asked. He looked back to Izuku. Who is this fake? All for One shot rivet stab into Kurogiri, activating his quirk. Forcible quirk activation. Leave this place, he said to the villains. What about you? Tamura asked. Flatline pointed a pistol at Tamura. You can stay if you want, it'll just make it more fun. Shuichi pulled a sword off his back and swung at Flatline's neck whilst he was focused on Tamura. That's one down. No. Himiko sprinted for Shuichi, knife pointed. You don't seem to understand what it truly means to be undead, the decapitated head of Flatline said. His body walked over and put the head back on. Damn, that attack damaged my helmet's sensors. Oh well. He took the helmet off, revealing that he looks exactly like Izuku. The name's Izumi. A real fucking vampire. Twice. What are you doing? Tamura asked. Get rid of this clone. This isn't Twice's doing, All for One said. Neither Midoriya's have double. He's no clone. Now leave before Lemillion gets back. But Master, we can fight alongside you. Power. Mirio flew past the destroyed buildings and punched All for One as he was looking the other way. Let's go Shigaraki, Atsuhiro said. While our masked lead is keeping Lemillion entertained and the students are still only threatening us. Whoa, hey. Why are there two Izukus? Mirio asked. dodging attacks from All for One. "Sup, I'm his triplet, Izumi," Izumi said. "Nice to meet ya." Mirio phased into the ground and then uppercutted All for One. "You mind escaping with the first years?" "Nah, I think I'll help you instead. But I could also do without the collateral." Izumi heard a whirring above them. Looking up he saw a helicopter. "And now the news is here. Can't fly now, Izuku." All for One sent a torrent of fire at Mirio, blasting him back. "So, the heroes are fine to break the law as long as there's no evidence?" "I'm a vigilante, not a hero," Izumi said. "I'm just making sure he doesn't get any bright ideas." "We've got visual of the battle," said the reporter. "Lemillion is on the scene fighting a masked man. Nearby are several villains and the students." "Wait. Izuku Midoriya appears to be wearing the new Flatline suit despite claiming to no longer be him." "Who's that off to the side?" the pilot asked. The camera pointed at Izuku. "What? There's a second Izuku. This one wearing the same outfit that he was kidnapped in. Is this confirmation of there being multiple Midoriya siblings?" "Tamura, if you leave now, I can go full strength and defeat these heroes." He sent out a wave of rivet stabs at the villains, pushing them into the warp gate. "I'll allow Himiko and Izuku to leave as well. I don't need to steal the same quirk multiple times." "I think you just don't want me to use my guns. Scared?" Izumi asked. "Himiko, let's go," Izuku said. "We're not allowed to use quirks, and as enjoyable as it would be to watch, you can't use those knives. Follow me." Himiko pouted. "I never even got to stab anything." "Don't worry, you'll get to see blood," Izumi whispered. "And there'll be plenty of stabbing once you get your license. You can keep the knives too, if you want." Himiko's pout disappeared. "Draw some for me." She ran off to Izuku, who then led her back where Izumi came from. "I wasn't talking about the knockoff Darth Vader. Sorry for what's about to happen, Izuku." He pulled the triggers on his pistols. The bullets bounced off All for One's armor. Of course it wouldn't be that easy. He reloaded. Blood seeped up his neck and went into his mouth. Izuku noticed red feathers moving around near the tops of the buildings, pointing to each other like arrows. They followed the feathers and came to an ambulance, atop which was Keigo, wearing medical scrubs. "Hey, you took your time," Keigo said. "Hurry up and get in. Izumi can't go all out until you're ready." The two ran into the ambulance, followed by Keigo. The ambulance then started driving away from the scene. Keigo opened a case containing vials inside the ambulance and gave one to Izuku. "Lie down." He looked to Himiko. "You're not hurt, are you?" "No," Himiko said. "Good. I'm not exactly a licensed paramedic and I may need to take defense, leaving you to healing duty." He turned on a radio. "He's ready." Izumi's helmet made a crackling sound. "Guess that's Hawk's signal." Izumi grinned. "There are two types of undead. Izuku is an incorporeal undead. He can choose to be immune to physical damage. 25%. Izumi head-butted All for One. "I'm the other. I'm corporeal. I take all damage thrown at me." 50%. Izumi swung a left hook at All for One. All for One flew back. Mortal bodies have limits. They can't use their full potential because they have to keep their organs functioning. 75%. Izumi uppercutted All for One with his left arm, but for a corporeal undead. 100%. He roundhouse kicked All for One with his left leg. "I can push my body beyond those limits." All for One's armor cracked. Izuku spit up some blood. "What's happening to him?" Himiko asked. Keigo gave Izuku another vial. Not only are Izuku and Izumi triplets, but so are their quirks. Izumi is tapping into Izuku's strength to surpass his own. All for One stood up. "It's impressive to see how far my lineage has grown." "Your lineage?" Izumi asked. "Well, not really mine, but my quirks." All for One blocked a punch from Mirio. "My quirk is the most powerful in the world. But it still has limits. So, I did some experiments with it to create lesser quirks with aspects of my own and gave them to quirkless babies to hopefully create quirks that could make up for my quirk's shortcomings. Sadly, everyone became a lesser copy quirk and by that time ordinary quirks were getting strong, so I gave up on that path. But it seems you were a descendant of one of those original experiments and finally I can steal your quirk and become unstoppable." Mirio smashed into him. "Don't think I'm not still after your quirks, Lemillion. Here's a treat for you and that fool All Might." He punched back with a fiery fist. Tamura Shigaraki was not my protege's original name. He was born as one Tenko Shimura. What? Mirio gasped. His lighting stopped for a second, giving All for One an opening which All for One took to blast him into the ground. 100%. He ran into All for One, shoving him off Mirio. Now's not the time to lose your cool, Lemillion. 100% won't be enough for this guy. Luckily an undead has no limits. Green sparks formed around Izumi. 200%, he pulled his guns out. Green sparks appeared around Izuku. What's happening now? Himiko asked. Izumi's tapping into Izuku's quirks, Keigo said. How? Copy quirk. You're becoming a nuisance, All for One declared. He sent a blast at Izumi. Izumi jumped over the blast and slammed his left foot into All for One's mask, cracking it. Izumi shot the crack, making it larger. I'll just have to attack your family, too. All for One seemed to be looking around him. There they are. What? Izumi asked. Keigo suddenly looked up. Something wrong? Himiko asked. Something's coming, he replied. Grey goo appeared in the ambulance. Out of it fell a Nomu. Nomu, Toga, take care of Izuku. I'll take this guy out. The ambulance's siren starting blaring as Keigo's feathers shoved the Nomu out of the ambulance. I'm sending the remaining Nomu to pay your brother and girlfriend a visit, All for One said. Then I guess I should end this fast, Izumi said. Quirk control, 500%. Izuku spewed blood, his mouth frothing. Himiko poured several vials into his mouth. More grey goo appeared in the ambulance. Shit. And it's not like I can just shove it out onto the open road. The ambulance started rocking. Hey, drive straight. Actually, who is driving? A Nomu appeared in the cabin of the ambulance. There were no people inside, so it didn't know what to do. It just started attacking the random feathers attached to the controls. A Nomu's attacking the feathers driving the ambulance, and by the sounds of it, one's attacking Toga. Keigo sent several feathers after the ambulance. Now, as for you. He shot feathers into the brain of the Nomu. The Nomu screamed and then attacked Keigo, punching towards him, which Keigo easily dodged. You're strong but slow. Even when I'm dividing my attention, you're no threat. Himiko stabbed the Nomu in the brain. It grabbed her and threw her to the back of the ambulance. Gah! She licked the knife, transforming into the Nomu. Now we're equal in strength. She slammed the Nomu into the base of the ambulance, denting it. Sorihiko shot into All for One. Those Nomu disappeared, so I assumed you brought them here. He shot off, rebounded off a building and slammed into All for One again. Where are they? And again. Are you retreating? You're fast, Gran Torino, All for One said. He caught Sorihiko. Sorihiko slammed his leg into the cracked mask. But that power is wasted on you. All for One grabbed Sorihiko's face as red and black lightning like smoke flowed throughout his body. Not gonna happen. Izumi turned off the safety on his suit. He then ripped the black disc off his suit, forcefully disconnecting it from the heat rate monitor. Then he discus threw the disc into All for One. 1000%. He slammed his left leg into All for One whilst holding onto Sorihiko. All for One flew back into a building, smashing through the wall he hit. Izumi's shoe fell off, revealing the flesh of his foot missing. Tick tick boom. The bomb exploded point blank on All for One and in turn the building collapsed onto him. Are you okay, old man? Why wouldn't I be? Sorihiko asked, seemingly not completely cognizant. Oh, hey, Gran, Mirio greeted. You think it's over? Black lightning shot out of the newly made rubble. It then exploded off of All for One who began healing. That was a mistake. The ambulance was barely keeping straight as the feathers tried to avoid the Nomu. Other feathers joined to keep the Nomu busy. Inside, Himiko was busy trying to keep the Nomu down whilst making sure Izuku was healing. Izuku screamed as his body jerked and blood dripped onto the bed, no apparent wound creating the mess. Damn it. She emptied even more vials into his mouth. Black lightning formed around the Nomu. What now? The Nomu grabbed Himiko's leg and slammed her into the table. Fuck! How did this thing suddenly get stronger? Even in its own form, I'm suddenly weaker than it. The Nomu grabbed her head. She screamed. Izuku's blood started dripping off the table. The ambulance rounded a corner before slamming into something, loosening the Nomu's grip. Himiko quickly ducked away. The ambulance door opened. Need some help? Keigo asked, walking into the ambulance. Hope that crash wasn't too much for you. Hawks? Himiko asked. She quickly grabbed a knife and stabbed her Nomu's brain. How am I back here? I had the ambulance round the block. This one suddenly got stronger. I noticed, mine did as well, right at the end. But running it over with an ambulance seemed to do the job. Himiko's Nomu gripped around his head. Hawks. Not to worry, Keigo said. My feathers blocked him. The Nomu's hand was pried open. He flew into the Nomu, shoving it back out of the ambulance. Himiko's transformation ran out. Great. The last Nomu ripped through the inner wall of the ambulance and grabbed Himiko by the arms and legs. It then began pulling her apart. She screamed. Fuck, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? What would Izumi do? I can become Izumi by consuming Izuku's blood, but will that be enough? It might buy time for Hawks. She reached her head below the bed and drank the blood dripping off the side, transforming into Izuku. Himiko pulled back against the Nomu, ripping its arms off. Wait, did I do that? She looked back at Izuku. There's no way he's this strong without quirks. Looks like you pissed him off, Mirio said. We're gonna have to go all out. How about a 3-on-1, Izumi suggested. We jump him and then when the time's right, you and me finish him off. Sounds good to me, Mirio said. The three of them shot towards All for One. Mirio went left, Izumi went right and Sorihiko went straight on. Sorihiko slammed into All for One, shoving him into Mirio who punched him whilst strapping him up with Black Whip, sending him into Izumi who punched through him. Thanks for the meal, Izumi said, drinking the blood on his hand. All for One stopped moving as Izumi turned into him. A rock floated and shot through Izumi's right side. His right side wobbled but reformed itself. I wondered why you only used your left side, All for One said. I've figured out how you're pulling off this trick. Izuku began coughing up blood again. His left side looked like it was starting to melt. Himiko walked over to the case before her leg was kicked in. Damn it. The Nomu reformed an arm and grabbed Izuku. Himiko reached for the vial but it was too far away. Come on. The vial moved towards her hand. What? She emptied the vial into Izuku's mouth. She then punched the Nomu's brain in, killing it. Himiko, thank you, Izuku said softly. Power? Mirio shot forward. 1 for all 100% plus gear shift plus FA Jin plus Black Whip. Now, Izumi shot forward. 1,000,000%. The flesh of Izumi's left arm began ripping apart as it glowed red. The two punched All for One, creating a shockwave that destroyed the remaining buildings around them. Izuku suddenly collapsed, blood spewing out of his mouth. I'm going to kill him. Himiko poured all the remaining vials into Izuku's mouth. Izuku and Izumi stared at each other inside Nezu's office. I see my arm is getting better, Izuku said, looking at Izumi's bandaged arm. Well, we do have 3 healing quirks, Izumi said. How was that last attack necessary? You're gonna be fine, so who cares if I went a little overboard? I care. That's my body, even if I can heal from it. I still feel everything you do. Remember what I said I'd do if you kept acting like this. Izumi raised his hands in surrender. Got it, don't go further than necessary. Good, now, what did you find out? He said all copy quirks were the descendants of offshoots of his own quirk. Izuku cut him off. So, Monoma's quirk is closely related to ours? And yet his copy quirk is so much weaker, bitch energy. Izuku closed his eyes and nodded like he had an astute observation. Agreed, total bitch energy, he's lucky he can use this to upgrade his quirk. Izumi copied Izuku. Anyway, apparently All for One wanted to find a way to make up for flaws in All for One, and I was his perfect solution. The first One for All user also said that him getting my quirk would be just as bad as him getting the original One for All. Speaking of which, could he steal One for All twice? What do you mean? Well, I can only copy the same quirk once, but All for One does not necessarily have the same flaws as Jack. Also, didn't it seem like he wanted to steal the quirks from Lemillion as well? Some of those, I already have. It's possible, Nezu added. He probably doesn't even need both copies, he just needs us to not have them and having a spare to give to, say, Shigaraki would be an added bonus. All for One with my quirks and Shigaraki with Lemillion's? That sounds horrifying, Izuku said. Agreed. Luckily, All for One's been captured, Nezu agreed. Well, you have a couple days to recuperate. I'm sure 1A would love to meet the new Flatline. Wanna switch? Izumi asked. Izuku grinned. Sure. The two closed their eyes for a second before opening them again. Izuku and Izumi walked over to Heights Alliance. Shota was in the middle of a speech to the rest of 1A. I heard some of you were making plans to rescue Midoriya and Toga. If that had happened, if you had betrayed our trust like that, all of you, except those two, as well as Jiru and Hagakure, would be expelled. Luckily for all of you, Izumi Midoriya stepped in to make sure that wouldn't happen. So instead, we're expecting you all to make it up to him during the following days as he will be an honored guest. That is all. Enjoy your free days. Izuku, pretending to be Izumi, whistled. What a speech, am I right? Class 1A turned around, noticing both brothers behind them. What the fuck? Katsuki questioned. Who's this loser? Izuku asked. Katsuki's expression turned to pissed. Have you forgotten Kachan? Izumi asked, pretending to be Izuku. Kachan? Oh, right, last time we interacted he called me a monster for drinking blood. He did what? Himiko asked, walking up to Katsuki. Please do not fight. Tenya cut in. We just narrowly missed expulsion. Shall we go in and party? Izumi asked. All right, you're Midobro 1. Eijiro pointed at Izumi. And you're Midobro 2, he pointed at Izuku. Remember to flip that back around when we switch back. Izuku thought whilst looking at Izumi, who nodded. All right, a question for Midobro 2 first, Eijiro continued. Your arm. Izuku looked at his bandaged arm. Oh, this? I thought it would be possible to increase the potency of my power stockpiling quirk by converting some of my body's mass into energy. Actually, I was inspired by Miss Yaoyorozu's performance during the sports festival. Oh, me? Momo blushed, embarrassed. Yes. That is similar to how my quirk works, but mine just uses my fats and lipids, not, she remembered the broadcast, my flesh. Yeah. It seems this technique is more effective than I would have wanted, Izuku said in an annoyed tone. So glad I can drink without affecting my healing, he poured a shot of vodka. So, Midobro 1, Eijiro asked. How did they capture you? Izumi froze for a second, looking at Izuku. Izuku noticed and began thinking back. I tried to save Ragdoll and got caught in flames aimed at her. Manly. Kirishima thought for a second. Wait, so did the flames kill you? Yes. So, can you use flames? No, besides flames are our other brother's things, I'd just give them to him if I got them. Other brother? Denki asked. He's been missing for a while, but he has some sort of fire quirk, we call it lantern. Damn, I'm sorry. Denki apologized. So, what quirk did you get? Kirishima asked. Izumi thought for a second. Let's see. Name. Search. Ability. Can see quirks. That's Ragdoll's quirk, isn't it? Kirishima asked. Yeah. Himiko walked up to Izuku. Come with me. She led him up to her room. She locked the door, turned around and slapped him. What the hell were you thinking? Ow, Izuku complained. I was thinking the big bad evil guy is threatening my brother and girlfriend. I should get them out of there and then help take him down. And what if you had died? Tears ran down her face. Izuku raised an eyebrow. I saw what Izuku's quirks were doing to him. If you had died next to that villain, you would have been overwhelmed by all his quirks and wouldn't be able to come back, or worse, whilst down he could have just stolen your quirk. She punched his chest. Izuku looked down. You're right, I was reckless. Izuku woke up back in his dreamscape. This time, next to him was Jack. Hey, why is dark shadow all over you? Jack asked. Izuku shrugged. Jack moved his arms like he was trying to push air. It's not responding to my quirk manipulation. Maybe it's not dark shadow. It's part of transfer, Yoichi said. My quirk. Transfer all right then. Jack pushed air again and this time the black smoke shifted. It still doesn't want to budge. It won't until he manifests himself more. Izuku woke up the next morning and went to his room where Izumi was supposed to be. Where the hell is he? Izuku showered and then when he opened his wardrobe to get clothes, Izumi was inside, upside down, sleeping. Wake up, you're supposed to be a ghost now, not a vampire. If you want to do that, we should switch back. Izumi woke up. Oh, right, I forgot. So are we switching back? Yeah, I guess so. The two closed their eyes for a second before opening them. Izuku floated back to an upright position. I'm going to retake my shower, you get dressed. The two went downstairs where Katsuki was leaning next to the door, staring at them. What up, loser? Izumi greeted. What the fuck are you? Katsuki questioned. Me? I'm just the best Midoriya brother. Debatable, Izuku said. Anyway, I can't believe you don't remember Izumi, Kachan. Cut the shit. Katsuki interjected. You've got some bullshit quirk and that's what he is, an illusion. Illusions are usually more the work of incorporeal beings, Izumi said. I can assure you, I am completely physical. I could beat your ass like I did to All for One to prove it if you'd like. I'd like to see you try. Toshinori sat opposite Mirio. My boy, I must apologize for bringing you into this war with All for One. I thought he was dead, at least I hoped. Oh, that's fine. We suspected he'd survived. But that's not why I asked us to have this evening. There's something you should know, All Might. Tamura Shigaraki is Tenko Shimura, Nana Shimura's grandson. What? Apparently All for One took him in as a form of revenge. Tears formed in Toshinori's eyes. Thank you for telling me, my boy. That night, as Izumi was leaving, Katsuki was standing outside the dorm, waiting for him, wearing his gauntlets. Can I help you, Kachan? Izumi asked. I did a little eavesdropping and found out that one of the villains has a quirk that allows him to make clones of people. Apparently these copies fall apart if they take serious injury. He stared at Izumi. Do you really think I'm one of these clones? Yes, I think Deku got hold of that quirk and created you just to fuck with me. Please, do you not think this is sufficient damage? Izumi pointed at his bandaged arm. I know Deku has shitty resistance quirks in him. And the rumor is that the required damage is a broken bone. Isn't that just a fucking flesh wound? Do you really want to do this? Oh, you fucking know I do. I've been waiting for a reason to beat the shit out of you. And because of your resistance quirks, I can't go easy on you. I won't stop until I hear a snap. Come with me. Katsuki led Izumi to a clearing away from the dormitories. Let's go, fucker. Katsuki rocketed forward. Die. Katsuki pulled the pin on his right gauntlet, blowing Izumi into the ground. Izumi's right side splattered before reforming. What the fuck? Katsuki questioned. What type of quirk is that? A side effect of some of my other quirks I like to have on constantly. I'd appreciate it if you didn't blow me apart like that. It doesn't fit my aesthetic. Izumi punched Katsuki in the gut, shooting him into the air. Katsuki spat blood before regaining his senses and rocketing back down, grabbing Izumi's left arm and twisting, dislocating it. That didn't break your bones, but it should make it harder for you to stop me. I thought you were supposed to be the #1 vigilante. But you're worthless without your weapons. Then why did you bring yours? Izumi countered. Katsuki snapped. You want to ask that again, Deku? If I'm useless without my tools, why did you bring those gauntlets? For, Katsuki aimed the other gauntlet at Izumi's face. This, he pulled the pin. Snap. Izumi collapsed to the ground but didn't dissolve. Wait, what? Katsuki was stunned. Why aren't you melting? Katsuki tried to blast Izumi again but nothing happened. Because he isn't a twice clone, Shota said, looking pissed. Katsuki Bakugo, what were you thinking? Shota asked Katsuki in an interrogation room. I thought I'd prove that nerd was a fucking liar, Katsuki responded. So you stole school property and attacked a fellow classmate to prove he wasn't telling the truth? What did you expect to happen if you were right? Katsuki didn't respond. So you didn't. You were angry and took it out of Midoriya. Do you really want to know the truth? I'd have Midoriya tell you himself, but he is healing a fractured skull. Katsuki looked up in confusion. Yeah, that clone you attacked, that was Midoriya, at least half of him. Let's start with when we captured Midoriya. He was claiming to have two brothers, one of whom was called Izumi. Hound Dog determined this lie to be the result of trust issues. More importantly, the commission decided that they could use these fake brothers to carry out special missions. Izumi would take on the role of Flatline, allowing him to enact more illegal operations, and his other brother is supposed to infiltrate villain groups as a double agent. So he is lying. For the commission, the organization that decides if you will be a hero or not. Katsuki froze. Oh no, you seem to have realized why continuing to pursue this self-righteous mission is detrimental to yourself. So I'll tell you how Midoriya can be in two places at once without a clone quirk, and no, it's not ectoplasm's quirk, either. It's a combination of multiple quirks. Lizard Tail Splitter allows him to split his body apart. In this case, he splits his right and left apart. He then uses blood control and transform to make it appear that the other half of each side is still there. Finally, he takes control of his right side, as it's the side with ice powers, whilst Jack uses Dark Shadow to control the left side. So, if it's really Izuku, why didn't you stop me? I got there as quickly as possible. Izuku warned me that you were taking him somewhere. When I got there you were pulling the pin. Izuku wanted you. That's still his left eye and ear. He says it's like viewing picture in picture. But that's beside the point. The commission isn't happy with you. They're probably going to be harder on you during the hero licensing exam. Then it's a good thing I'm the perfect hero. One look at my performance and they'll put me in the top 10. Despite how sure I am that that would totally happen, Shota rolled his eyes. Why should we annoy the commission more by keeping you here? What? Due to Izuku having a fracture, the official story will be that you attacked him, not Izumi. This would reflect worse on you, but it is closer to the truth, so you can't complain. We have been suspicious about your past relationship with Izuku. What would we find if we dug deeper than official records? You'd only find the perfect hero. Does the perfect hero bully and torture fellow classmates? The perfect hero trains, and that means training against various quirks. So you used your quirk and forced others to use theirs in public areas. You used your quirk on others? Of course I did. How else could I be the best if I didn't make sure everybody knew it? I see. Final questions. Why does Midoriya imply that you were upset that he's alive? That he survived suicide? That your suggestion worked? Katsuki Bakugo, what did you suggest to Izuku Midoriya? I suggested that if that nerd was so determined to be a hero despite his quirk being so weak at the time, he should have thrown himself off the roof of the school and hoped he was reborn with a better quirk in his next life. And as he said, I was right. I made that nerd the powerhouse he is. He should be praising me. I see, so you suggested Midoriya commit suicide unaware that he couldn't die? Katsuki gritted his teeth. You're not listening to me, I've heard you fine. Everything's been recorded. I'd send you to Hound Dog, but I've received no reason to prolong your stay at UA. AGEH what? Katsuki stood, sparks appearing in his hand before being restrained by Shota. Katsuki Bakugo, you're under arrest. The next day Class 1A was brought to Gym Gamma by Shota, accompanied by Ectoplasm, Kayama and Ken. By the licensing exam, I expect all of you to have created 2 ultimate moves. Midoriya is presently healing from prior injuries, so luckily he already has one. Additionally, Katsuki Bakugo has been expelled for attacking a fellow student. Class 1A murmured amongst themselves. Ochako thought about how Izuku managed to fly and spent her time trying to replicate it. Whilst she couldn't push her foot through the ground, she could push off it and swim through the air. The more agile I get, the better my martial arts will be, she told her ectoplasm clone. Honestly, flight is already pretty good, the clone said. If you perfect this, you might get both moves at once. Meanwhile, Himiko went to the support department to give her more ways of extracting blood from enemies. If I want to maximize the use of my quirk, I should become an underground hero. If I have somehow evolved my quirk to use the quirks of those I transform into, like in the ambulance, then the winner in a fight would be the one who can make the most of my opponent's body. I necessarily have the practice of my opponent, so I should focus on my agility to outmaneuver my opponent. That just leaves getting the blood, hence why I'm currently having all these random gadgets strapped to me by this pink-haired girl from the sports festival. With this assortment of babies, you'll be able to extract blood from any opponent, no matter the situation, Mei cheered. Awesome. But I still need to be agile enough to fight my opponent. Then how about we modify those knives for maximum bleed and give you wrist-mounted blood extractors, nothing too bulky. Perfect. After failing to find his case in court, Katsuki was loaded into a prisoner transport vehicle. Soon after the van exited the city, a man wearing what looked like the Flatline suit without the colored outlines stood in its path. The van tried to swerve before the figure raised his arms and green flames engulfed the vehicle. The vehicle tipped over and scraped along the road before stopping right in front of the figure. The driver opened the door and pointed a shotgun at the figure before realizing it didn't have a head. What the fuck? He looked around and noticed what looked like a burning pumpkin above him,
right before it engulfed him in flames. The figure walked around to the back of the van and ripped the doors off their hinges. It pulled Katsuki out of his seat.
"Get the fuck off me!" Katsuki objected. The figure threw Katsuki to the ground and turned to the other prisoners. It then burned them all as well. "What the fuck? Get me out of these restraints. I'll fuck you up, villain." "Calm down, Kachan. This is your second chance." "What? Deku?" "Yep. Sent here by the commission. So you're a villain? They're villains?" "Nope. These were all death row inmates, and the driver? A plant from the commission. He has a fire immunity quirk." "So what does the commission want with me? Do they want me dead?" "I'd rather you just rot in prison, but apparently they think your quirk is too good to go to waste." "Huh, I knew it. They'd literally kill to keep me as a hero."
"No, they want your quirk. They'd have me copy it, but Jack thinks your quirk sucks. In fact, he doesn't even want me to waste transfer by giving a copy of your quirk to somebody else."
"I don't care what your stupid quirk thinks. My quirk is the ultimate quirk simply because it's mine. Even if you copied it, you wouldn't be able to use it right, Deku."
"For your sake, I hope you're right. What does that mean? In order to make it up to the commission, you will join this version of me as a double agent. We will be shacking up with villains until the commission decides to let you become a villain. So don't fuck up, because as far as we know, if you die, you won't come back. So, what do you say?
"Are there any other options? You get to go to prison?"
Fine, I'll just consider this my first hero mission." "Good. Welcome to the MLA. If you can pass this test and get your provisional licenses, then you novice eggs will hatch into chicks. You'll be semi-pros," Shota said to Class 1A after they got off the bus for the licensing exam, as well as Hitoshi, who was taking Katsuki's place in the exam, though he was not a member of the class. "I expect your best."
"All right. I can't wait to be heroic chicken," Denki said. "Let's call out the usual, you guys." Eijiro started. "On my mark, go plus. Ultra." Inasa yelled over the UA students, raising his hand. "Why no, it's pretty rude to butt into other people's huddles like that, Inasa," Seiji said. "What? Pardon me." Inasa bowed with enough enthusiasm to smash his head into the concrete. "I am so very extremely sorry." "Who is this guy? I do not trust his enthusiasm," Denki asked. "Hey, look at their uniforms," Kyoka said. "They're from that famous school on the other side of Japan," Hanta added. "I wanted to say it just once, plus Ultra," Inasa repeated. "See, I really love UA High School. I am incredibly honored to compete against such incredible students. I'm so looking forward to it." His forehead bled. "Inasa Yorasi," Shota said. "Do you know that guy, Mr. Aizawa?" Toru asked. "Indeed, he's strong," Shota explained as the Shiketsu students left. "He's the same year as you all and received the top scores of students admitted through recommendations. But for some unknown reason, he turned down his acceptance to UA and went to Shiketsu." "Eraser." Emi called out. "I know that scowl anywhere. I saw you on TV and at the sports festival. But it's been a while since we were this close in person." She walked up to him. "Let's get married." "No," Shota responded. "Over here, everyone," Emi called out to students behind her. "This is UA." "Oh, whoa. It really is Class A," Yo said. "Wow, that's so amazing. I've seen them on TV before," Tatami said. "Second years from Ketsubutsu Academy," Emi explained. "This is Class 2, they're my students." Yo grabbed Denki's hands. "Hey, I'm Shindo. Seems like UA's had a lot of trouble this year, must have been tough for y'all. But even so, you're still all aiming to become pro heroes, despite those hardships." He switched to Kyoka. "It's wonderful. Hearts full of fortitude. I believe that's what every hero in the world needs to have. And Izuku, it must have been hard for you, what with your past and that whole kidnapping incident. You have an especially strong will, don't you? Today I'm gonna do my best to learn from you. I really hope you don't mind." He held out his hand. Izuku looked at Yo, then his hand. This guy's hiding something, his eyes are lying. Maybe his quirk requires him to shake a hand. I should keep an eye on him, as well as Jiro and Kaminari, at least until I figure out his quirk. We're already at a disadvantage, what is this guy's play? Izuku ignored the hand. I hope you do learn something, particularly how to hold a poker face.
Hey, get your costumes and head to orientation, Shota instructed. There's no time to waste. It's weird, I always forget we're famous to other schools, Kyoka said. Oh yeah, we're basically celebrities when it comes to hero course students, Denki responded. Alright, let's do this thing, Yokumiru lifted his head. I'm from, the Heroes Public Safety Commission. Name's Mara. My circadian rhythm is so screwed up. I've been swamped lately and I haven't gotten much rest. We're too short-staffed, I'm so tired. With that confession, I'll now begin orientation. So, about the content of this license thing, basically 1,540 examinees compete in a free-for-all exercise or whatever we're calling it this year. See, we've got a lot of pros around, and since Stain was arrested, many people have expressed doubts about the status of heroes in society. But, when you really think about it, getting paid makes sense. If you're going to risk your life to save someone, why shouldn't you ask for a reward, huh? That's just the way the world works. Anyway, whether they're in it for compensation or out of a sense of duty, we've got too many heroes working together in the streets these days to keep villains at bay. Honestly, the period of time between when an incident begins and when it's resolved is ridiculously short. You are all here trying to receive our provisional licenses, so you'll be swept up into this tiresome mess yourselves pretty soon. Those of you who don't have the speed, frankly just won't cut it. Which is why that's what you'll be tested on. The first 100 students to fulfill the requirements will pass today. Well, the world can be pretty crappy, I suppose I should say something about luck. So anyway, here are the basic rules. The examinees will put 3 targets on his or her body, they can go anywhere you want as long as it's an exposed area. So no soles of the feet or armpits. Each of you will also have 6 balls, the targets are programmed to light up whenever they've been touched by the balls. If all 3 targets light up, you're out. Oh, and the person who lights up your third targets gets the credit for your defeat. You get through this round by taking down 2 people. Got it, good, what else? I guess we'll start handing out the targets and balls. Then you'll have a few minutes to get situated after we open. The walls around the building opened up, revealing a battlefield around them. I'm sure each of you have different terrains you like or want to avoid. Use your quirks well and do your best. Or not, whatever. I'm going on my own, Shoto said, walking off. It's hard for me to use my power safely when a big group's around. He walked away from the rest of the UA group. The other schools have an advantage thanks to the sports festival, Izuku said, filling up a vial with his blood before handing it to Himiko. So I'll even the playing field. As soon as the starting alarm rang, the Ketsubutsu students appeared in front of UA, each wielding 1 or 2 balls. Suddenly any balls they weren't holding shot away from them and floated over Izuku. If anybody wants to fight us, they'll have to reserve their ammo and fight amongst themselves to get the win.
Makabe, you still got any balls for me? Itajiro asked.
I've only got 2, Shikui replied. Then I'll use those, Itahiro said. Then what will I have? Shikui asked. This isn't the Class A from the sports festival, Yo said. It's obvious their training is making them better fighters. He put his hands on the ground. Out of the way. Their defenses are too strong right now. I'll fix that. Izuku looked at Denki and Kyoka. Maximum force. Tremoring earth. Yo shouted. The ground around him cracked and exploded. We've got ultimate moves, too. You didn't think you were the only ones, did ya? Izuku noticed the ground begin flying through him, making him lose sight of the rest of Class 1A who were being thrown away so he couldn't fly to where they were. Damn it. It's about time somebody perked up and passed, Yokumiru said before screaming. What? There were 120 people taken down. A single person managed to do that in just 1 attack. That attack couldn't have been Shindo's. Izuku looked up. Looks like that attack scattered the balls so I can't use it to bring the class back. Well, if I've been split up I might as well just take 2 people out. He felt somebody grab his shoulder before she flipped over him. Kami's smile turned to confusion. Hey, where are your sensors? Sorry, they're protected by my quirks, Izuku said, trying not to reveal his separated body parts whilst making sure it didn't sound like he was cheating, because he wasn't. Well, that sucks. See ya, cutie, she said before disappearing into colorful mist. That was strange, Izuku said. He turned invisible, using camouflage to make his balls transparent before flying away from the area he was in until he found 2 random students and shot the balls at them. And that's the second examinee onto the next round, Yokumiru said over the loudspeakers. Himiko easily flipped through the flying debris, and when things calmed down she checked her equipment, especially her blood vials. She heard footsteps behind her and turned to see several Ketsubutsu looking at her. Crap. The ground underneath her cracked as webs shot out of it, which she flipped over, followed by large metallic jaws.
"Hey, you want help?" she heard Ochako's voice ask. Turning, Himiko noticed Ochako watching over a pile of rocks. She flipped towards Ochako. "Let's make a break for it." After several minutes of running through the debris, they hid. Himiko caught her breath and looked to Uraraka. "Pretty strange you didn't use your quirk. We would have been even more agile." "Gotta save my strength, right?" Ochako said. "Right, and what about my quirk?" Himiko added. "Any ideas for how to use it? Could be pretty useful, right?" "I guess so, but why though?" Ochako asked. "I think somebody's coming," Himiko said, pointing behind Uraraka. When Ochako turned, Himiko threw a ball at one of her targets. "What? Hey!" Uraraka looked back. "What are you doing?" "Cut the shit. Your movements and way of speaking don't match Uraraka. Copying people's look is my thing. You copied my thing. Only Izumi's allowed to do that. Who are you?"
Ochako disappeared, leaving behind Kami. "Like, you're pretty smart, right?" She breathed out mist before the area around them began to change and she disappeared. "This is how it's done." Himiko grabbed her filled vial right before tape shot around the field. "What?" She looked over to see Honta. "Uraraka." Honta yelled as Ochako flipped over him and landed next to Himiko. "Where's the fight?"
"Not here," Kami said. "I'd fight 2 if I knew their quirks. Or even 1 if I didn't. But a 3-on-1 with an unknown quirk just sucks. See ya." The mist disappeared, leaving only the 3. "We're a trio now," Ochako said. "What's next? I wish we could meet up with the rest of our class. We're way safer in numbers." "I have a vial of Izuku's blood," Himiko said. "All right, but over 30 people have passed so far," Ochako said.
"Let's see, where are we at now?" Yokumiru announced. "Looks like 53 make that 54 people have passed. And looking on the other side of things, looks like 232 examinees have failed. Less than half the spots are open. Now's the time to move, don't dally kids."
"We need 6 people to pass. I'll act as bait and bring them to you guys to take out," Himiko said. She quickly drank the vial, transforming into Izuku. Then she ran out of the hiding spot and threw a random examinee over to the other 2. Uraraka quickly pinned him and took him out. "If this is her plan, we should prepare for more falling students." "All right, I'll build a net," Honta said. "You take care of anybody who evades it." It didn't take much longer for another 5 to fall into the net and for the 3 to pass.
Hitoshi snuck around until he found himself in a building which, looking through the windows, had occupants. He snuck in and hid until he heard one of them speak. He then snuck behind another and used his voice changer to sound like the one he heard before. Repeating this strategy got him an easy victory that most of the building's occupants didn't even notice. Denki and Eijiro ran around for some time, but it wasn't until there were few spots left that the enemy groups were small enough for a brute force attack to be effective. The moment they found a group of 4, Denki shot conductive discs around them, paralyzing them before Eijiro punched them all out.
Eventually every UA student passed the test and were gathered with the other successful hero hopefuls in a room.
Yokumiru announced, "All right. For the 100 of you who passed the first test, please turn your attention to the screen." The screen showed the various sites from the first test right before they blew up. "There's only one more round to the exam. Your goal is simple. Undertake rescue exercises and save the bystanders who are trapped in these disaster sites. Use this to show how you will carry out successful rescue procedures once you receive your provisional licenses. Treat this as though it were the real thing."
After some time a bell rang around them. "Villains have performed a large-scale terrorist attack spanning all of insert city name here.
Since most buildings collapsed, there are many injured. The room around them opened up like the last one. Due to heavily damaged road, the first responders have unfortunately been delayed for the time being. Until emergency services arrive, the heroes in the area will lead the rescue efforts. Your task is to save as many people as you can and help the injured. And with that, begin.
Let's start by heading to the closest urban area, Tenya ordered. We'll work as a team as much as possible. Right. Class 1A agreed. Izuku heard a cry in the middle of a destroyed building. He ran over. Help me please. The actor, who looked like a young boy, cried. My grandpa's been crushed. I think he's hurt. Don't worry, I'll save you, Izuku said. I sound so lame, can you walk?
I think so, the boy said. Izuku touched the slab the boy was gesturing towards, revealing an old man beneath. Izuku quickly checked the man's injuries before floating the man and pulling him along with telekinesis. One of you help his grandson. Not technically something I can't do, but it will help others get points.
Hitoshi remained at the main first aid site to use his quirk as anesthetic. Technically, if they had real injuries, a sudden twitch from a broken bone or something could wake them up. But then that would mean whoever my quirk didn't work on would be the highest priority for treatment. Himiko stayed by Jiro, who was searching for injured and would go after any who were more difficult to get to, using her athleticism to get to them easily. A wall at the side of the facility suddenly exploded near the main first aid site, then more explosions sounded throughout the city. A villain has completed another large-scale attack, Yokomiru announced. Kugo and his sidekicks walked into the faux city. Tell me, wannabe heroes, can you rescue people? And fight at the same time? The terrorists have appeared and are beginning to sweep the area, Yokomiru continued. Hero candidates at the scene should continue their rescue efforts while also suppressing the newly arrived villains. Now, how will you react? Kugo asked. Will you fight or protect? Help or run away? What would a hero do? Get everyone to safety. Yo commanded. Get them as far away from the villains as possible. I'll start hammering away at the henchmen at 1-second intervals. He touched the ground and it shattered, knocking the sidekicks back.
Kugo appeared in front of Yo. Nice try. He hit Yo with a point-blank ultrasonic attack. Shindo fell paralyzed. A single rear guard to hold us back. You've underestimated me. Kugo quickly turned into an incoming ice wave which he shattered with another ultrasonic wave. Several UA students arrived to help evacuation of the main site. Shoto froze Kugo's sidekicks in place. Your power is nothing, Kugo yelled, shattering another ice wave.
Guess I know why he's number 10, Shoto said. Shoto felt wind around him and looked up to see Inasa flying above him. I'm going to blow you evildoers away. Inasa yelled, shooting sidekicks away while powerful winds. A second villain attack. Man, they really pulled out all the stops for us, didn't they?
Izuku walked up to the fight with Kugo. Todoroki, lend me your fire. You villains not only attacked a city, but you came back to try and kill the survivors. For that crime, the Reaper will decide your fate. Black enveloped his body as he began to levitate. Shoto blasted fire at him, which seemed to turn green before spinning around Izuku into a fire tornado. Kugo sent an ultrasonic wave at Izuku which Izuku responded to with a fiery, yeah. Countering the attack.
Midoriya's keeping Gang Orca distracted, Shoto said. I'll take out the remaining lackeys. You should go to the first aid station, your quirk would be good for that. Inasa glared at Shoto before flying over to the remaining sidekicks, followed by Shoto. Izuku split his body into many pieces, leaving his mouth for Kugo. The other pieces flew out to create a semicircle vice around the villains, blocking them off.
This was followed by the pieces moving inwards and creating fire tornadoes of their own until they merged into a fire cyclone that surrounded the villains. Some of the sidekicks shot at Izuku but they couldn't seem to get past the black substance surrounding him. Suddenly, Izuku's shouting stopped and his mouth was blown back by Kugo. Damn it, need to heal my vocal cords. Gang Orca's free, Inasa yelled. My turn. He shot a blast of wind at Kugo as Shoto shot fire at him. The two attacks seemed to have completely missed. Why'd you use your flames? The heat makes the air rise up.
Because he didn't fall to my ice earlier, Shoto answered. You ruined my shot on purpose, didn't you? Using your wind to blow away my fire. You blocked me so you'd get all the glory. Why would I do something like that?
Why wouldn't you? Hatred's in your blood. You are Endeavor's son. A hand slapped each of them before pointing at the cyclone around them. I can't tell them explicitly, but they should get the idea of making a combined attack like my initial fire tornado. The two looked at the cyclone. Shoto shot his fire up and Inasa focused on redirecting the fire around Kugo, restringing him. This heat is drying me out, Kugo thought. Some of the sidekicks pointed their guns at the two heroes, but Shoto made an ice wall. The ground under the minor villains collapsed. I'll take out these guys. Yo said. You guys beat him. A siren blared. Yeah. So, at this time, all of the civilians who were deployed have been rescued from the disaster zone. It may seem anticlimactic, but with this, the provisional licensing exam has officially been completed, Yokumiru announced. After we tally the scores, we'll announce the results here in the area. Any injured should go to the infirmary. The rest of you are free to change clothes and wait wherever you like.
Okay. Everyone, Yokumiru greeted. Thank you for your hard work in today's exam.
Now, before I announce the results, I should probably explain the way we evaluated you.
Between the civilians and those of us at the Heroes Public Safety Commission, we had a twofold demerit system that we used to determine your total scores.
In other words, we were evaluating based on how few mistakes you made in a crisis situation anyway. The names of those who passed are listed here in alphabetical order.
Keep my words in mind as you search the screen for your name. The board behind him lit up with 91 names on it, including all of the UA students and Inasa. So, next we'll give you the printout of your results. They include a breakdown of your scores, so you'll know exactly what areas you need to improve moving forward. We lopped off points when you did something wrong, fall below 50, and you were done. These demerits are itemized on your result forms, as you'll see, so I'd look at them. Izuku got 90 points. Shoto and Inasa both got 51 points.
Himiko got 71 points and Hitoshi got 65 points. Anyway, moving forward, those of you who passed can exercise the same authority as pro heroes, but only during emergency situations. In other words, fighting villains, saving the victims of criminal acts or accidents. You may act using your best judgment, with no direct orders. Keep in mind that your every action from now on carries with it a deep responsibility toward bettering our society, and that the world is watching you. I'm sure you're aware that All Might, our incredible hero, no longer has his incredible power. We may have heroes like Lemillion and Endeavor, but we are not anywhere near the same level when it comes to how the general public views heroes. One of the reasons crime in this country was so low was due to his presence. With that deterrent gone, criminals have become bolder and more widespread. The balance is shifting quickly. You young people will be the hope for our future. Rikia looked up from Tomiyasu's laptop. I was unconvinced of you merely being Flatline's brother, but seeing him and Lifeline together and then you killed a police officer to get us such a powerful meta-ability user. I am quite happy to have you join us properly, Lantern. Thank you, Destro, Izuku responded. I simply could not allow such a powerful quirk user to rot in jail, especially since I know that he agrees with the great Destro. Rikia laughed. I'm well aware. Sadly we couldn't bring him under our wing until after he decided to break the law. He looked to Chito's. Prepare a special report, make sure it can't be connected back to us. Of course, sir, Chito's bowed and left. Shota glared at his screen. What the hell are the HPSC thinking? Why would they have Midoriya attack Bakugo's transport vehicle? Is the guard alright? I'd better ask Midoriya about it. I haven't had enough sleep for this shit. He then left for UA's main building. When he got to class he smirked seeing everybody sitting in silent. Morning. Today we'll talk about work studies. He looked to the classroom door. Go ahead and come in. The door slid open. Mirio, Najire and Tamaki walked into the room and stood in front of the class. I'll have people who've experienced them firsthand explain. I suggest you listen carefully as they point out how work studies differ from internships. These three are third years from UA. They rank at the very top of our student body. You may know them as the Big Three. I'm sure you at least know Mirio Tagata, but I'll have them introduce themselves anyway. Let's start with Amajiki. Tamaki looked up at the class, his expression terrified the class. It's no good. You two go, I just can't. Even if I try to imagine them as potatoes, I can see their human bodies. I know they're still people. No words are coming out. My mind's blank and my mouth's dry. I can't say anything. I wanna. He turned around. Go home. Okay, so, are you really one of UA's top heroes? Mashirao asked. Najire laughed. Come on, Tamajiki. You need to have the heart of a lion, not a kitten. You know, even though you're human. Get what I mean? She looked to the class and gestured towards him. This is our kitten, Tamaki Imajiki. And hi, I'm Najire Hato. I'm supposed to talk about work studies. You first years have a really exciting time ahead of you. Hey wait, hold on, she floated over to Mezzo. Why are you wearing a mask? Is it 'cause you're feeling sick? Or just trying to look cool? Mezzo started. Oh, you. Oh, whoa, she got up. And you must be Todoroki, am I right? Yeah, how'd you get that big burn on your face? That's none of your, Shoto responded. And Ashido, if your horns break off, you think you'll grow new ones. Oh, and can you wiggle them? She looked at Ochako. Uraraka, you only need one hand to activate your quirk, but both to deactivate it, right? So what if you lost a hand? Would it just stay there until somebody like Eraserhead deactivates your quirk? Ochako almost threw up at the thought. Najire turned to Sue. Oh, Asui, you're a tree frog, not a gross toad, right? Oh my goodness, there's so much I want to know about every one of you. Let's have a Q&A. She looked to Mashirao. Hey Ojiro, can you support your entire body weight with that tail of yours? Well you see. Come on, tell me, I really wanna know. Shota glared at the big three who were yet to explain what the work studies are or even introduce Mirio. His eyes glowed red and his hair stood up as he activated his quirk. This is completely irrational. Oh, there's no need for you to worry, Eraserhead. Mirio stated. I'm up next and I'll get the audience refocused. He turned to the class, holding his ear out. The future's gonna be. Everybody stared at him. Gonna be what? Denki asked. Awful. That's your part, guys. Mirio stood straight. Oh, crap. My call and response was a total fail. Is it just me or does each one of them seem like a complete weirdo? Rikido asked his nearby classmates. Is this some kind of joke? What's the deal? Okay. You guys look like you have no idea what's going on, Mirio stated. I guess we are third years who just showed up in your classroom to explain a program that's completely voluntary. I can see how you'd be confused by that. You guys got your provisional licenses as first years, right? This batch of new students has proven to be pretty darn energetic. So the problem is, you must not have a sense of humor. That's why my joke didn't land. Don't do it. Tamaki pleaded. Heads up, the rad new plan is all you first years fight me at once. If you want them to experience our experience, this is rational way of doing it, right Eraserhead? Rational. Do whatever you want, Midoriya's already fought you, so he'll sit out. I wanted to discuss something with him anyway. Wait, didn't Izuku barely win against Lemillion, who was wearing weights at the time, by using an ultimate move? Ochako asked. How many quirks did you use? Shota asked Izuku. 15, I think, Izuku responded. That's less than 18, Shota said. The big three, 1A and Shota went to Gym Gamma. Mirio stood in front of the class, minus Izuku. Mirio, you're impossible, Tamaki said, facing the wall. It would have been simple enough for us to just tell them, this is what it's like, here's what we learned from it. Not everyone has your level of drive. Plus, think about how bad it will look if some of them can't recover after fighting you. No one wants to spend the next 2 years in a hospital bed. Najire, playing with Mina's horns said, hey, listen up. It's story time. Long ago, a student got frustrated in class and quit being a hero, and it was terrible for everyone. Did you know that? So Tagata, I know our job is tough, but you better make sure you know what you're doing. Be careful, okay? Alright, now who's gonna start this party? Mirio asked. I've got this, Eijiro hardened. Everybody else took position as he dashed forward. Right before he landed a punch, Mirio's clothes fell off of him. Oops, my quirk's kinda tricky, Mirio said, trying to put his pants on. Eijiro tried to punch him, his fist went through Mirio. Went for the face, Mirio asked as acid, light and tape shot through him. Meanwhile, Shota and Izuku were off to the side, watching. So, problem child, Shota started. What is the commission thinking? Have you heard of the Meta Liberation Army? Izuku replied. The quirkiest organization led by Destro that sought for the abolishment of quirk laws. They were stopped generations ago. They're back, Izuku said. They're being led by Rikiya Yatsubashi, CEO of Detonarit, or as he's now going by, Destro. The HPSC are using Hawks, Lantern and now Bakugo as triple agents. You have to be kidding me. Hey look, they're done. Izuku said, looking at the gym covered in unconscious students with a naked man standing in the middle. Power! Mirio yelled. Izuku waded through Mirio explaining permeation until Mirio got to how it pertained to the work studies. In our work studies, we're not treated as guests like in our internships. We're regarded as one of our sidekicks, or even as a pro. That can be super scary. Pros can get hurt. And sometimes they end up watching people die. But every scary and painful thing you go through is an important experience you can't get inside a classroom, even at UA. I transformed the experience I got at my work study into power. That's how I got to the top spot. And, it's why I think they're worth it, even if you're scared. Why with me, first years? By the way, we decided that you could only choose agencies with a good track record for work studies, Shota said to the class before dismissing them. Good track record, Izuku thought. He then looked at Mirio. Lemillion started working at Might Tower, but then when All Might closed his agency. The other heroes went with Sir Night-Eye, so that must be who Lemillion is under now. Night-Eye, that guy's quirk is way too dangerous. Jack cried, fear in his words. Wait, are you afraid of Sir Night-Eye? Izuku asked. Of course, he can see the future. So he can prevent our deaths. That's worse than Eraserhead. Izuku grinned. I think I know who I want to study under. Consider this payback for my arm. Hey, Tagata, Izuku called out. Jack floating out of him and trying to drag him back. Green sparks flashed around him as he strode forward against Jack's efforts. What's up? Mirio asked. You're doing your work studies at Night-Eye's agency, right? Do you think he'd allow me to work under him, too? Could you introduce me? Mirio looked back at the black blob desperately trying to escape the situation and snickered. Yeah, with slapstick like that, I think he'll let you. Plus from what I've already seen, you don't seem like that bad a hero. Slapstick. Well, this is it, Sir Night-Eye's agency, Mirio said. Listen, if you want to be acknowledged by him, here's a tip. You need to do one important thing at this meeting. You gotta make him laugh. Then he'll totally approve of you. Make him laugh. Like just tell a joke. Izuku asked as they walked in, the pavement showing grip marks from Jack. If that's what it takes. He seems stern, but he really values humor, for some reason. It's like irony, or something, I think. The most I can do is introduce you to him. Sir's the one who'll see if he can use you. I wish I could help more, but that's all I got. From here on, you'll have to figure out how to make Sir acknowledge you by yourself. They got to the top of a spiral staircase as Mirio pointed to a door. Here we are, he's just beyond this door. If you wanna get stronger, then walk on through. Izuku opened the door to Kaoruko strapped a machine that was tickling her, Mirai standing in front of her. What the fuck is going on? Mirai glared at Izuku. He then noticed the path of destruction and the quivering blackness behind Izuku. What is this? Confused, Izuku turned around and in his surprise at the destruction, Jack managed to overcome him and pulled him back out of the office before Izuku grabbed onto the doorframe, making it crack. My apologies, sir. My quirk's afraid of yours. Mirai chuckled. Mirio, who's that? Kaoruko asked as Mirio untied her. An underclassman at my school. All right. You want to do a work study here because you believe it will make you stronger, and as a punishment for your quirk. Yes, sir, Izuku confirmed. We'd need to draw up a contract. Izuku handed Mirai a contract, which he took by hand. Once I stamp this document you'll officially be contracted with my agency for a work study. You have to understand that this will be nothing like the week-long internships that you students take on so casually. You must work here for a minimum of 4 months and will be paid wages. However, your academic responsibilities will likely suffer due to absences you rack up. Which means your classmates will pull ahead of you. Pretty sure they would just see it as them catching up. Mirai slammed a seal down next to the document. I am not approving this. I understand how working here would be beneficial to you. But what benefit would you bring to my agency? How would it outweigh the destruction your quirk has caused and would further cause? This office currently runs smoothly with 2 sidekicks and 1 work-study student already under my employ. So why would I add you on? How can you contribute to society? How can you be useful to others? In order to be acknowledged, you must be able to answer those questions unequivocally. All Might showed his worth using power and humor. He gave hope to those who lived in fear of criminals. That's why the people were happy to acknowledge him. But you, boy, were a vigilante who inspired fear. It's time to show me what you would bring to the table. Using actions, not words. 3 minutes, you have 3 minutes to take this seal from me, and you may only use 1 power to do so. If you want to work as a hero under my guidance, then stamp that contract yourself. You two, wait outside. He gestured for Mirio and Kaoruko to leave. Yes, sir, they said. With feeling. Sir. Yes, sir, they repeated before leaving. I'll take no offensive measures during this time, and you're welcome to attack me in any manner you desire. Don't concern yourself with what happens to the room, it's destroyed enough. Just come and get it. The most obvious choice would be telekinesis, but his grip on it would be tight, and boosting telekinesis with 1 for all would count as using multiple abilities. Jack might be able to, but he's not cooperating. He would be used to fighting all for 1, so how about? Yeah, Izuku screamed at Mirai, breaking his concentration and forcing him to cover his ears. In the split second where Mirai was unfocused, Izuku grabbed the seal and ripped it out of Mirai's grasp and slammed it onto the contract. When he lifted it there was no print. What? Mirai held an ink pot in his other hand. I had not inked that seal yet. I had high expectations for you, until now. You had the power to beat me, but you lost it. Your borrowed powers are wasted with you as you rely on stacking them rather than making each one as strong as it can be. You think you have time to stand there, frozen. Or did you only have 1 idea for how to use that quirk? Perhaps it's a one-time use. A pity. Izuku rushed forward and left at Mirai, who dodged. Izuku tried multiple directions of attack, but each one was predicted. Izuku threw a bookshelf at Mirai. Time is almost up. Izuku felt that his vocal cords were almost fully healed and took a deep breath. It's over, 3 minutes have passed. Izuku breathed back out in shock. You devised only a single plan and it failed spectacularly, rendering you unable to continue. You're a failure. Then why did you save me? What are you talking about? 14 years ago, you went out of your way to save me and my mother from my quirk. 14 years ago. Mirai sat down at his computer and searched for files on Izuku Midoriya. This boy, I saved his mother. He died that day. I did die, but my quirk is the power to come back to life, more powerful, after dying. I remember, you were afraid to touch my hand that day. So that was your quirk's doing. Jack's afraid that you can stop their plans for obtaining more quirks. I would have used him to take the seal but he's too afraid. Midoriya, your quirk allows you to push past my foresight. In a way, you can change the future. I will allow you to stamp your contract and also, I will promise to not use my quirk on you. That should save me an office and make your quirk more cooperative, correct? He threw the ink pot at Izuku. What do you think, Jack? Izuku asked the blackness which was currently hiding inside him. I think that would be alright. As Izuku and Mirio were patrolling, Eri suddenly ran out of an alley and into Izuku, falling to the ground. You okay? Izuku asked. He knelt down and held out his hand for her, making her cower. Is something wrong? Why is she trembling? You should be more careful, Kai said, walking out of the alley. We don't want to cause trouble for the heroes. Overhaul. I hope you'll forgive my daughter. Hero, right. I don't know what to do with her. Always playing rough, bumping into things. I'm so sorry about that, Mirio said. It was our fault, too. I know that mask, you must be from the Hasaikai, right? You guys are famous around here. Yeah, please don't mind the mask, it keeps out the filth. Alright, on your feet, partner. Can't do much harrowing from down there. We need to finish patrolling this area by lunch, come on, let's go. Right, Izuku said before Eri grabbed onto him tightly. Please, please don't go, she cried. Your daughter seems scared, Izuku said to Kai. A reaction to being scolded, Kai responded. And what about these bandages? Those are just from playing rough. Eri's an exceptionally clumsy girl. She's terrified of going with you. Does that seem normal to you? It's dangerous to make assumptions about what's normal for other people. Yeah, everybody's different, am I right? Mirio asked. The more we push, the more likely he is to go into hiding. Leaving now would raise more suspicion. A hero wouldn't abandon a frightened child, Izuku thought. What are you doing to this girl? You heroes really pick up on the subtlest things, don't you? Kai asked. Very well. This situation is embarrassing, so I'd prefer to discuss it where we won't be overheard. He turned and walked into the alley. Izuku and Mirio followed with Eri. Hard to admit you can't control your own child, but lately Eri defies me no matter what I try. Parenting man. Sounds rough, Mirio said. That can't be easy. Yes, children are tricky. So determined to do whatever they want. Kai grabbed his left glove, slowly taking it off. That sometimes they just don't listen. Seeing this, Eri quickly left off of Izuku and walked over to Kai. Oh, good. Done with your temper tantrum. The two walked away. Don't go after them, Mirio said. Did you notice? He was ready to get violent. That's why she went back. If we keep pushing him he's going to be even harder to catch. For now let's report to Sir. A week later Izuku, Eijiro, Ochako and Sue eerily took the same path to their work studies, eventually meeting the big three at the door to their destination. Something big is definitely happening, Izuku thought. Could it be about overhaul? His thoughts were further confirmed when they entered to see a room full of pro heroes including the current number 8 hero, Ryoko Tatsuma as well as Shota. We're all here, Night Eye, Ryoko Tatsuma said. Let's get started. Mirai addressed the heroes and sidekicks. Thanks to the information provided by all of you, our investigation has progressed substantially. We've invited you all here for a joint conference to share the intel we've acquired regarding the Yakuza group, Shihasaikai and what we believe they might be planning. Alright, let's begin at the beginning, Kaoruko said. For the past couple of weeks now, those of us at Night Eye Agency have been conducting an investigation into Shihasaikai, a small but organized group of criminals. What prompted this? A hero asked. An accident involving a gang of thieves called the Reservoir Dogs, Kaoruko responded. The police thought the whole thing was an accident, but there were a number of details which didn't add up. So we began tailing them. Juzo continued. In my capacity as a Night Eye Agency sidekick, I began following leads to see what I could uncover. I found that in the past year, the members of Shihasaikai have increased contact with those outside of their organization, including others whose business dealings are less than reputable. Their aim seems to be expanding their organization and enriching its coffers. Shortly after our investigation began they made contact with a member of the League of Villains. Jin Bubagawara, villain name, twice. They were wary of being tailed, so I was unable to follow them. But with the help of the police, I was able to confirm that an altercation had occurred between the two groups. That'd be about when they decided to reach out to Tsukauchi and me, Sorahiko said. Figured we'd be able to assist given the League's involvement. Go on, Bubble Girl, Mirai said. So, after all that went down, we posted a notice on the HN requesting assistance, Kaoruko continued. I think we can skip that part, Juzo interrupted. Sorry, Kaoruko apologized. What's the HN? Ochako asked. Stands for Hero Network, Najire answered. It's an online service that can only be accessed by pros. You can see what all the heroes in the country are up to and you can ask for help from pros whose quirks you think might come in handy. Does anybody want to tell me why a bunch of high school kids were invited to this conference? Ken asked. I don't care if they are from UA. If we have to keep stopping to explain this stuff we'll never get to the actual plan. Also, wasn't this one a villain? He pointed to Izuku. Don't say that, Teishiro objected, standing up and gesturing to Tamaki and Eijiro. These two have important information to pass along. Anyway, I can see a bunch of new faces, so let me introduce myself. Nice to meet ya, I'm Fat Gum. Izuku was a vigilante, not a villain, and has made up for it. Hisaikai's movements are hard to trace, Mirai said. But we suspect one of their main sources of income is illegal drug sales. So I requested heroes who had expertise in that area. Yup, I brought in my fair share of drug dealers back in the day, Teichiro said. And at Red Riot's debut fight, he proved he could too. Tamaki was shot, and the bullet contained some sort of drug I've never heard of before, one that destroys quirks. It doesn't seem to function exactly like my erasure does, since I'm not actually attacking the quirk directly. What we call a quirk is an extraordinary addition to an ordinary human body. Those additions are collectively referred to as quirk genes. I can shield those genes and temporarily block their expression, but I don't actually damage them. But after Tamaki here was shot, we brought him to the hospital and they found that his quirk genes had sustained damage. Teichiro said. Fortunately, they've seemed to have healed on their own and he's back to normal now. What do we know about the substance he was shot with? Mirai asked. Whatever it was didn't harm the rest of his body, Teichiro explained. Nothing but his quirk was harmed in any way. The guy who shot him clammed up, he won't say a word. And the round that hit Tamaki was totally spent. However, Kirishima bravely defended Tamaki from a bullet which then bounced off his own body and should now provide us with a viable sample. And when we analyzed the substance from the bullet, we discovered something that made me sick to my stomach. It contained human blood and cells. In other words, that effect came from a person, from someone's power, Ryoko Tatsuma said. A quirk that can destroy quirks. The man who shot Tamaki used an illegal drug to boost his quirk during his fight with Kirishima, Teichiro said. The distribution channels for something like that are complex, although things have shrunk since the old days. Drugs still pass through various individuals and organizations before they reach the end user. There's no concrete evidence that Hisaikai handled the drug, but we know for a fact that they interacted with one of the middlemen responsible for moving it. The other day, Yukyu's team broke up a fight between two villain groups. One of those groups was controlled by the intermediary organization that Fatgum just mentioned, Mirai said. A picture of Kai Chisaki appeared behind him. Their young head, Chisaki. Quirk. Overhaul. With this power, he can disassemble things and then reassemble them, a quirk that allows him to completely break down matter, and a bullet that can break down quirks. Chisaki has a daughter named Eri. There are no records or details about her birth, but when Mirio and Midoriya encountered her, they noticed there were bandages wrapped around her arms and legs. At this point their efficacy seems to questionable. It's possible they're still in the testing phase, and he's giving them out as samples to rally more people to his cause. We have no hard evidence. But we do know he's gathering allies and funds from across the nation. If the completed drug allows him to annihilate a person's quirk entirely, imagine the devastation he could cause. All the talk about making Eraserhead's quirk permanent. What the fuck? Izuku thought. I'm going to beat the shit out of Overhaul. I should have killed him on the spot. Would have saved us a lot of trouble if these two amateurs had just gotten the girl out of trouble, Ken said, looking at Izuku and Mirio. I take full responsibility, Mirai said. The blame should not fall on them. Even without knowing the full story, they acted to save the child, each in their own way. Midoriya was willing to take the risk of saving her then, while Mirio chose to wait for another opportunity when success would be more likely. Another week later the work-study students were awoken to messages from their agencies. She's keeping Eri at their stronghold, Mirai said. The headquarters of the Hisaikai, Ryoko Tatsuma said. It's their leader's residence. So you're telling me all of that investigating we were doing was for nothing then? Ken asked. Not at all. We gained plenty of new information as well, Mirai said. How do you confirm she was there? Teichiro asked. Mirai placed a large box displaying magical girls on his desk. A member of the Shi Hisaikai visited a nearby department store the other day. He purchased a toy favored by young girls. What? Teichiro asked. That's pretty sparkly, Ken said. Listen, maybe the guy just likes cutesy stuff. Teichiro objected. Different strokes for different folks, Night Eye. Do you want to tell us what you're doing with one, though? Yes, Mirai confirmed. I was there when he made the purchase and overheard his conversation with the store clerk. Hey, what's that show little girls are into these days? The henchman asked. Glitter something or other. Oh, sure, the cashier said. I wonder if you are talking about Glitter Squad, maybe. Yeah, that's the one, I remember now, it's Squad Action Glitter Squad. So you got any of those? Oh, I'm very sorry, sir. The Squad Action Glitter Squad from several years ago. The current series is Gunho Glitter Squad 10. Really? Okay. Where are those, then? Mirai grabbed the man's shoulder. They're right over here, he said, holding the box the man was looking for. Whoa, where'd you come from? The henchman asked. You were asking about Glitter Squad, I'm a fan, too. After everybody suited up, Mirai addressed them again. Now then, let's begin. The heroes and police readied themselves to move towards the Yakuza base. Now, heroes, the local police commissioner spoke. Things could get violent quickly out there. If you encounter even a hint of suspicious behavior or resistance, call for help immediately. We're up against gangsters who've avoided capture until now. It's imperative that each of you carry out your respective assignments and stay sharp in there. He saluted, followed by the rest of the police. We will begin the operation at 0830 hours. Heroes, move out. They headed to the base and took guard at the front. Jack watched from a nearby roof, using invisible and search to stay hidden and watch for anybody in need of assistance. Once they've read the warrant, then you're free to move. I'm counting on everyone to act swiftly. He went to use the gate's intercom when Rikia punched the gate open and attacked the police. Shota and Izuku quickly pulled the men in front of Rikia out of the way. What do you want? Rikia asked. It's too early for visitors. He looked to the pros. That's good for waking up a little. His right arm started growing in size. Brace yourselves, Ryoko Tatsuma warned. Why are you people here? He punched the air, creating a blast. Ryoko turned into her draconic form, catching his fist. Listen to me, we shouldn't split up too many of our forces yet. The Yukyu agency will take care of this villain. She pushed him to the ground. The rest of you, go. Najire, Ochako and Su stayed to help Ryoko Tatsuma as the rest of the forces moved in. At the courtyard they were met with resistance from low-level thugs. Most of the police and the background heroes stayed to deal with the thugs as the rest moved in. Mirai stopped at a vase. This is it. There's a device here that opens a secret passage. You press down the floorboards in a specific order, and then the wall moved out of the way. 3 thugs crawled out from behind and were quickly grappled by Juzo and Kauruko, who stayed to keep them subdued. The remaining group ran into the base and stopped when they saw that the path was a dead end. I'm gonna go take a look, Mirio said. He ran up to the wall and stuck his head through enough to allow his eyes to be usable. He saw that the path continued. The hallway's just been blocked with this wall. Unfortunately, breaking through it's not going to be easy. Izuku and Eijiro quickly broke through the wall. Joy injected trigger into himself and phased into the walls before making them twist. Izuku and Mirio ran ahead, ignoring the walls as they followed Mirai's directions. The ground around the rest of the heroes, minus Mirai, plus the commissioner, disappeared, making them fall into a room with Sorimitsu, Toya and Yu. The pros should save their strength for when they reach the target. Tamaki halted the rest of the group from engaging. These guys just wanna slow us down. Go on, I can handle them myself. After further discussion, the rest of the heroes continued on. After running for a while, Joy slammed the wall into Shota, shooting him towards a hole. Teishiro pushed Shota to safety as he and Eijiro were sent into the hole. After that, the walls started moving inwards but Ken locked them in place. More walls shot through the hallway until suddenly everything stopped. A wall away, Jin was trying desperately to dig through his supplies for something to repair his mask. In doing so his doubled way of speaking babbled about the League's betrayal in front of Joy, who got pissed. Joy made the floor underneath everybody collapse. I will not forgive anyone who disgraces the way of the Yakuza. Crush them all to death, he yelled. As the dirt around the concrete structure started creating columns randomly, Joy was suddenly strongly dislodged from his hiding place and began falling. Shota erased his quirk and Mirai knocked him out with a high-density seal. Before Joy hit the ground, a black figure with red highlights shot through where he fell from and caught him before placing him down and ripping a lock of hair off his head and jumping back up through the hole. Was that Flatline? Mirai asked. Yes, Shota confirmed. But the real question is, Why did a vigilante with no trouble killing save Mimic? Excuse me gentlemen, but we need to talk, Mirio said as he faced down Shi, who was accompanied by Hari, who was holding Eri. You've got some explaining to do. Why don't we have a chat about Eri? Izuku was behind him and invisible. You shouldn't have been able to get here so fast, she said. Isn't your quirk some sort of super strength, or energy projection? I saw you at that battle against All for One. He doesn't know our quirks. Probably doesn't even watch the sports festival, Izuku laughed in his mind. Isn't he supposed to be smart? Yet he doesn't take advantage of Uwa giving away knowledge of quirks. Even the other hero schools did that. I took a shortcut. Give us the girl, Mirio demanded. I'm here to rescue her. Now that you know the situation, you've decided to play hero, schoolboy. At least your sidekick tried to save her in the alley. But you were happy being ignorant when we first met. Unfortunately for you, this girl didn't want to come with you. You're no hero to her. That's why I'm here. I'm not getting through to you, allow me to be clearer. She turned around, as did Hari. Mirio took the moment to phase through the floor. You're going to die down here. Mirio and Izuku suddenly felt the room spin as the two walked away. Ha 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 ha, you feeling sloshed? Diodoro asked, drinking a bottle of alcohol on the ceiling. Your legs look shaky and you're swaying. I feel the same, that's why I'm walking up here. Mirio prepared to fly away from Diodoro when he dodged a bullet fired by Shin. What is your quirk? Shin asked before being slammed into the wall by an unseen force. Diodoro then met the same fate. Mirio shot through the floor and appeared behind Chisaki. He swung and Kai dodged. His foot phased through Eri and slammed into Hari. Hari dropped Eri and Mirio caught her. Please don't, Eri pleaded. Go back, leave me, otherwise, he'll kill you. I'm never going to let you down again, Eri. I swear it, I am going to be your hero. Filthy, Kai complained. Come back, Eri, how many times do I have to tell you? It's your fault. You break people, that's just how you were born. Go, hurry, Eri said. Don't listen to him, Mirio said. You know how this goes, Kai said. I always have to get my hands dirty because of your selfishness. Every action you take results in people dying. You're a cursed human. How could you ever say that to your own daughter? Huh, oh, right, that's the story I told you. I don't have any children. He took off his right glove. The ground shattered, and spike formed around Mirio, which he dodged. She could have gotten hurt. I don't care if she had gotten hurt. If I disassemble and put her back together immediately, I can revive her. Even if she's not quite the way she was before. Eri already knows what I can do. More spikes formed. What will you do if Eri gets injured? Under these conditions, I'm the only one who can heal her. I've sealed off your escape. So, you gonna fight me, schoolboy? Hari got up and raised a pistol towards Mirio. Why isn't Izuku fighting? Jack thought. What are you planning? Careful, Kai told Hari. Aim for the arm wrapped around Eri. Kai destroyed the spikes between Hari and Mirio. Mirio covered himself and Eri with his cape. Hari shot twice and both bullets went through the cape. And here I thought heroes only wore capes because it made them look cool, Hari complimented. Chrono, Kai yelled as Mirio came up under Hari, disarming him. Sorry, Overhaul, Hari apologized. He's strong, but he put Eri down. If I break her, he'll be forced to back off. Kai was about to touch the ground when Mirio attacked from behind. Of course you would do that, you monster. Mirio yelled. You want to know why a hero wears a cape? So he can use it to comfort someone, that's why. He kept Hari from the gun and Kai from the ground. You won't lay another finger on her. I'll take on anyone I have to. You've lost this fight, Chisaki. Don't use that name so casually, fool. I've abandoned it. Master, Shin called out from under stone. Nemoto, shoot. Kai threw a small box at Shin. The box opened, dropping a quirk erasing bullet. Shin grabbed it and put it inside his revolver before aiming at Mirio. The boss needs me, I can't let him down. Even if it costs me my life, I'll assist him however I can. But where do I aim? I only have one bullet, and I'm shooting at an untouchable target. How can I keep him from using his quirk? He looked at Eri, his true feelings. Mirio turned and dashed for Eri. The bullet fired as Mirio grabbed Eri. The bullet hit a wall of ice. The ice led back to Kai, or at least next to him. What? Kai asked before grabbing the source of the ice, feeling something invisible which he then destroyed. Izuku became visible as he exploded. No. A voice was heard from above as the road above them collapsed in. Jack slammed through the ceiling and slammed into the ground. He removed his mask, looking pissed. Finally, he swallowed a pill and took a fighting stance. That was a mistake. Kai laughed. What an honor to have both the hero and the vigilante who took down all for one fighting me. But I'm not as washed up as him and not as clouded with anger as the two of you, plus this time I have backup. Hand over Eri, and you won't meet the same fate as him. Mirio slammed Hari into Kai, followed by Jack punching Kai in the face. Jack then took another pill. Kai repaired Hari's head. After the two of them worked to keep Kai away from Eri and the ground, Jack noticed heroes on the other side of a wall. Now were the ones with backup. He smashed the door down before taking another pill. Shota ran through the hole, followed by Mirai. Shota erased Kai's quirk before Mirio punched him back. Night Eye. Quick, secure those who've been injured. Flatline, where's Lifeline? I'm working on that, Jack answered, taking another pill. Jack and Shota dashed for Kai. Mirio went for Eri. Time to get up, Chrono. Kai yelled. Shota knocked Jack out of the way as one of Hari's clock hairs sliced Shota's arm. Those pierced by the long hand will find their movement slowed. I meant to skewer both of you at once, but then that's heroes for ya. As Jack closed into Kai, Shota slowly blinked. All you've done, Kai said, has been for nothing. Kai raised his hand into the air and slammed it onto the ground, creating a forest of spikes. As if I'd let my plans be ruined by people like you who are sick in the head. Shin fell in front of him. You get it, Nemoto. You want me to succeed. I won't allow all my hard work to end here. You've always been eager to help, so I know you'll happily give your life for my cause. He grabbed Shin's mask and combined himself with Shin. Won't you? He grew 4 new arms. Now heroes, I'll have you return Eri to me. He stared down Jack and Mirio. That was unpleasant but necessary, and I feel much better now. Cleanliness is an obsession of mine. When someone contaminates me with their filth, I lose control. It's never gone quite this far before, though. What an unfortunate turn for you heroes. He checked the box of quirk erasing bullets he left with Shin. He used Shin's arms to manipulate the ground as he rushed for Eri. Jack attacked him with a spike. Kai punched back, cracking Jack's suit. Stand back, Flatline, Mirai commanded, running in. I'll deal with him. Will you now? Kai asked. Limit his moves and get in close, Mirai thought, throwing his seals. Don't let him transform the ground. You get and Mirio get Eri to safety. On it, Jack answered. What happened to Eraserhead? Did your lackey take him somewhere? I'm interested in heroes who can erase quirks, so he's been shown to the VIP room. Kai answered. You destroy other people's quirks so cavalierly. But when the tables are turned, it frightens you. Kai formed 2 of his arms together and swung at Mirai, who dodged. Lemillion, you make sure the path continues, I'll break down the walls, let's go. Jack said, kicking a wall in. Eri looked at Jack and remembered what just happened to Izuku. No, I'm so sorry. She cried. Jack looked back right as a spike went through Mirai's arm and torso. Sir? Mirio asked. No, let me see it, Mirai yelled. The future in which the boys escape and bring Eri to safety. Let me see it. Kai created even more spikes which Jack stopped by slamming the ground. Get Eri to safety, Jack commanded Mirio before taking another pill. Give up, I've already told you how this ends, Kai said. You're all going to die. Not now, not here. Jack jumped forward, dodging spikes. Jack jumped to the ceiling and shot back down, kicking down, but missing Kai's head as Kai dodged. You may be fast, but compared to the last 2, Kai grabbed the ground. The lines of your movements are painfully easy to predict. A spike shot through Jack's leg. He reformed an arm. Being able to put myself back together again doesn't make breaking apart hurt any less. He stood up. You're done, kid. Sadly, I'd have to agree, Jack said, taking a final pill and then disappearing into the mass of spikes. Jack reappeared alongside Izuku, who was now wearing a bodysuit that matched his hero's suit, except it was green with black lines. "Miss me?" Izuku asked Overhaul. "Thanks for keeping him at bay while I regenerated. Please leave now before I'm forced to arrest you," Izuku said to Jack. "See ya." Jack saluted before dashing through the hole he made at the start of his battle. "You can regenerate from being disintegrated." Kai was furious. On top of invisibility and ice. "What the fuck are you?" Izuku suddenly appeared in front of Kai. From speed, sadly undead cannot teleport. "I'm a ghost." His fist slammed into Kai. "Now what's this new form of yours? You're not the only one who can have additional powers. I can combine with my underlings, and like this, I'm stronger than some." "Ghost." A hand formed on his arm. "Someone else is about to die because of you." The hand spoke loudly. "Is that what you want? Eri? I think I know how your quirk works. I stayed invisible and watched before to confirm my hypothesis." I'd love to hear it whilst Eri makes her way back. "Firstly, it clearly works at the molecular level, based on how messy things get. Second, you don't need to know the structure of anything you build, otherwise, you wouldn't be able to recreate living things without knowing their genetic makeup, but you've recreated people you just met. So you only need to know the chemical makeup, easy with a cheat sheet. For example, all this rock around us is granite, which is about 70–80% silicon dioxide, so if I just focus on that." He touched the ground and spikes generated, piercing Kai. "What?" Kai screamed, realizing Izuku was using Overhaul. "Now, Overhaul, you ready to fight the Reaper?" Izuku turned black and began to float as all the debris around them started to spin around him. Izuku shot forward, pulling on all the debris around him and firing it at Kai. "You filthy heroes screwed everything up." Kai dashed for Izuku. Spike clashed with spikes as the two reformed their surroundings to their will. Izuku used half-cold and voice to create additional weapons and defenses. He used telekinesis and poltergeist to shoot the debris around him at Overhaul. His strength-enhancing quirks and float allowed him to move around the battlefield with ease. If he couldn't dodge an attack, he let it pass through him with permeation. Izuku eventually found an opening where he could touch Kai and separate him and Shin. "I should have mentioned that I have that cheat sheet for the makeup of a human, and all that form was as doubling the ingredients. Give up, Chisaki, I've beaten you." Shota met Izuku at the hospital. Izuku noticed Shota and spoke up first. "Mr. Eraserhead, I have something for you." Shota asked. "I wanted to destroy them, but I know the commission wouldn't let that happen. And Jack would be horrified if I gave them to you. So of course, I thought that'd be the best option, an incentive to ease his tendencies in the future." Izuku held out the box of quirk-erasing bullets. "Thank you, but there's something more important right now." When Ken's wife entered his hospital room, his child stared at you, suggesting him sharing a secret quirk with our favorite Frenchman. After crying over Mirai's death, Izuku met up with Jack. "All right, let's get rid of Overhaul, now," Jack said. "Soon. I need to do something else first," Izuku said. "What? Relax, it'll be quick, but you got that hair right. We can do that before I do what I need to do if that'll satisfy you." Jack groaned. "Fine." The two reformed before Izuku killed himself. When he woke up he flew to a certain forest. He landed in front of the Wild Pussycat's base and knocked on the door. Shino opened the door. "Midoriya, I have a present for you guys," he smiled. "Or more specifically, Ragdoll." "Oh, okay, come in." Inside the main room were the rest of the Pussycats. "Hey, Pussycats," Izuku greeted. "Haven't seen you guys in a while." Tomoko snickered. "Last time I saw you, you were naked." She pointed at him and laughed. "That's not why I'm here, but it's related." Izuku placed a box in front of her. "Presents." She cheered, ripping the box open. Inside was a green hair. "What is it?" "I believe All Might told me to say." His face morphed to match Toshinori's strong form. "Eat this." "What?" Izuku sighed. "I have a quirk called Transfer. It allows me to give somebody a quirk through my DNA." Tomoko snickered again. "You get naked then. Anyway." Izuku cut her off. "If you eat that, one of two things will happen. Either you'll just get Search and Transfer, or you'll get all my quirks. In the first option, I'll kill myself to recopy them. In the second, I'm free." Either way, I'm good. Tomoko swallowed the hair and they confirmed she only got search. Izuku then recopied her quirks and left for Ua. Izuku opened the door to the staff room. All Might. Toshinori spat up blood. Why, young Midoriya, can I help you? No, but I can help you, come with me. Izuku led All Might to a meeting room. So, All Might, how would you like to no longer have that injury? I certainly wish I didn't have it. But even the best healing quirks haven't worked. So I'm glad you found a healing quirk, but I'm afraid it won't work. What if I told you, it's not a healing quirk? It's not. Then what is it? Izuku picked up a broken pencil and destroyed it before recreating it, making a complete pencil. The ability to destroy and recreate matter. All I need is the chemical makeup of my target. He put a sheet of paper between them, such as the chemical makeup of a human. May I? Will I be okay? Don't worry, I've tested it on people before, it will only hurt probably a lot. Let's just get it over with. Actually, we should probably do this with Recovery Girl, she could also give you painkillers as well. They went to Chiyo's office and Izuku rebuilt Toshinori. All Might looked at his stomach, which lacked his injury. How do you feel, All Might? Izuku asked. I feel great, thank you young Midoriya. I think you've made up for repeatedly killing yourself at the sports festival, Chiyo said. So you won't hit me anymore? Izuku asked her. I didn't say that. Anyway, Izuku looked back to Toshinori. Now for me to fulfill my promise. He pulled a hair from his head and held it up to Toshinori, his face morphed again. Eat this. Wait, what quirk did you find? The one I just used. Overhaul is as powerful as One for All but doesn't fit my theme. Chisaki could have easily been a top 10 hero, you can be the hero he failed to be. But do you really think I can use this quirk? Doesn't it require somebody to be extremely smart? No, like I said, it requires somebody to know the chemical makeup of their target. He held out the piece of paper. The makeup of a human would be important for healing, but also any materials you're likely to be around for your mission such as steel or silicon dioxide. With this quirk, you are reborn as Overmight. Toshinori swallowed the hair. That night Izuku was in his mindscape, everybody from before was with him as well as a green figure that looked like Tomoko. Izuku looked at Yoichi. You're still here? Izuku asked. Yoichi walked up to Izuku. Jack and I thought what you did today was selfless enough to keep transfer with you when you gave away Overhaul. Wait, seriously? Izuku forced himself awake and flew to the commission headquarters. He waited inside the boardroom for Madam. I have a proposition. This better be good, she demanded. I want to give quirks to the citizens. What? Just quality of life upgrades. If they can't handle much power, they can get telekinesis. If they can handle more power, they can get super regeneration, and if they're quirkless, they can get both. Their consent would be necessary, of course. Japan has been lacking in quirk power thanks to All for One destroying any powerful quirks that appeared early on, but we can't have people figuring out that you can give quirks. It's bad enough that Overhaul knows you can copy them. So, you will need to be accompanied by an agent with a memory-altering quirk. Of course, the commission has MIB agents. Do we have a deal? Yes. Good. Izuku, along with Eijiro, Ochako and Sue came back to the Heights Alliance from the last additional class they had to take to find 1A looking down. Something wrong? Izuku asked. Midoriya, can you drum? Kyoka asked. Drum? For the school festival? Yeah, so far I'm the only one who can, but I'm the bassist for the band. Drumming's about multitasking, right? Jack, care to help me out? Jack flowed out of Izuku and formed appendages with sticks on the end from their smoke. Happy to help. Izuku looked at the sticks lying on the drum and pulled them into his hand. I may not be practiced, but with Jack helping me out, I should be able to make a pretty good beat. Kyoka looked hopeful. Give it a try. Izuku sat down at the drums and started a beat with the bass drum and hi-hats. He then added the high and medium toms. Jack then joined in with the floor tom, snare drum and both cymbals. The resulting beat was off, but Kyoka thought it just needed timing and a little variety to be decent. With a little practice, it should be rocking. A couple days later, Himiko was put on the special effects team to pull Yuga around as she was the most athletic and could transform into anybody with a strength quirk. The night before the performance, Himiko noticed the rope used to hoist Yuga was frayed. This probably wouldn't be safe to use, she said. Can we get another? All the stores are closed, Denki said. And most of them open at 9, whilst the performance is at 10. What about the department store closest to Ua? Himiko asked. It opens at 8. That's cutting it pretty close. I could transform into somebody with a speed quirk, maybe Iida. Tenya rose and waved his arm with enthusiasm. If it means saving the festival, I will gladly offer my blood for this mission. The next day, Himiko quickly ran to the department store to collect rope before bumping into a tall man and short woman, both clearly hiding their identities. Dear me, Danjiro exclaimed. I'm sorry, Himiko apologized. Do be careful, you almost ruined the aftertaste of the Gold Tips Imperial. A travesty I would not be able to ignore. Come, let us go, Labra honey. Honey. Oh, yes, that's me, honey, Manami responded. Oh, so is that house some sort of cafe? Himiko asked. Danjiro turned and walked up to her. Oh haha, you must be familiar with Gold Tips Imperial if you had this realization. You're obviously a boy of refined taste. Always a pleasure to meet a fellow connoisseur. Even if you are just a lad. How would Iida respond? Oh, yes. My friend made that tea before. Why do I recognize his voice? Oh, you undoubtedly run in high-class circles. Which would suggest he goes to an elite school. I mean you have a wise friend. Himiko waved her arm up and down. Yes, I am very lucky to have my friends. He's that villain who posts videos of his crimes. What's he doing here? Danjiro and Manami turned and began walking away. What are you two doing this close to Ua? Himiko asked, dropping the Iida act entirely. It's too late. Danjiro and Manami thought together. Himiko placed down her bag of rope. I have my agility and Iida's speed. I should take advantage of that and end this quick. Whatever do you mean? Danjiro asked. I took an interest in you when I was a villain. Your flair and morals were of interest to me. La Brava, it's time to bring out the camera, Danjiro said. I'm giving you one warning, don't do this. Don't attack Ua. Well, aren't you a perceptive young man? Danjiro complimented. La Brava, from this moment on there's a slight change of plan. No matter what, don't stop filming. Oh, I'm all over it, gentle. Manami answered. But are you going to fight right here? On the street? What about your master plan? My dearest viewers, I believe it's time to give you a taste of my hijinks. Danjiro took off his trench coat, revealing his butler's outfit. In doing do, he made the air in front of him elastic. Try not to be so dazzled that you avert your eyes as your favorite scoundrel shows off his talents. Gentle criminal, at your service. My plans have shifted. Due to our current predicament, I shall keep my words brief. For this caper, I shall infiltrate Ua High School. Himiko launched forward, bouncing off the air. I conjured up this barrier as I cast off my overcoat. If you've seen my videos, then you should already know my quirk is elasticity. I bestow said property to anything I touch. And I do mean anything, even the air itself. He and Manami turned and ran, sorry to cut and run, but the show must go on. Himiko got up and sprinted after them, quickly catching up. Gentle trampoline. Danjiro made the ground under Himiko elastic, bouncing her over them, she rolled onto the ground. He and Manami then used his quirk to fly by bouncing on the air. Himiko ran down the street until she found a hill steep enough to be used as a ramp and launched herself at Danjiro, grabbing him. The two slammed into a construction site. What an unexpected turn, Danjiro said, hanging from his coat. This won't do at all. However, one must keep a sense of humor about such things, mustn't one? Ha 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 ha. Now my boy, I best bid you goodbye and be on my way, your school won't infiltrate itself. I've called the authorities. Stay put, the police and the pro-heroes will be here any minute, now. I don't think so, Danjiro said, making the air underneath his feet elastic. Whilst the aftertaste of the tea remains, I'll make certain you can't ruin my machinations. He jumped out of his binds. Himiko chased after, using her speed and agility to jump between beams, just as Danjiro was doing. Danjiro used the air to prevent her from shooting straight at him. Danjiro jumped onto a beam and pulled out its bolts before bouncing the beam up and down. Now boy, Do pay close attention to what I'm about to say. I can't cancel the effects of my quirk. The things I elasticize return to normal gradually over time. Imagine how the structural integrity of this steel is affected by this unnatural bounce. Oh, and did I mention that I felt it prudent to remove the bolts from the one I'm standing on? Just think, should this beam fall, the havoc it should wreak on anything, or anyone below. Himiko looked down to see an old man looking up at them. You're a UA student, yes. He slammed the beam out of its place. If someone's in danger, you'll step in. Himiko kicked the beam out of danger. Danjiro took the opportunity to grab Minami and slingshot the two of them using a crane into the forest around UA. Himiko shot after him. He's still fighting. I think it's time, Minami said. Let's use my quirk. La Brava, I'd like to save your quirk until the situation becomes more dire. But at this rate it's highly possible your plan will fail. I'm well aware, this clever caper is now a race against the clock. He turned back, seeing Himiko keeping up. And he's fast. Himiko remembered where Danjiro bounced and used her agility to follow his path, flying around his barriers and allowing her to kick him. Are you okay? Minami asked before Himiko pinned them both down. Stop resisting, Himiko demanded. Give up. I love you, gentle, Minami said. And you, my La Brava, Danjiro responded. Pink lighting flashed around Danjiro, followed by pink smoke. Danjiro slowly rose against Himiko's pin. Apologies, lad. In the blink of an eye, he and Minami disappeared from under Himiko. I abhor using brute force, so I usually edit out scenes of such violence. He walked over to Himiko. It would be best if you took a nap. He slapped Himiko's neck. Himiko fought against the pain. I've been in worse situations than this. I've fought people stronger than you. I beat them, I can beat you too. As the UA school festival started, Himiko used the distraction of the smoke machines to kick Danjiro. The two bounded between trees. Gentle sandwich, Danjiro shouted before throwing multiple rings of air onto Himiko. I do regret having to pile on so many layers, but I suppose it can't be helped. Sacrifices must be made to achieve the dreams of my youth. To make certain history remembers me. This is no longer an ambition I hold simply for myself. Unless I want my name to fade, I must persevere. My aims are not so trivial I would abandon them. You're a UA student, so you must understand what it means to yearn for a goal. Himiko kicked the dirt, shooting her forward before kicking to shoot herself upwards. I do. But your goals conflict with mine. The two clashed again. I can't let you go to UA. Not when I have a chance to prove my parents wrong. Minami tried to hack the UA systems, but in finding that she was too far away, ran further into the forest. Himiko tried to chase after before Danjiro pushed her down and jumped between trees around her. Do you still believe me to be an unworthy opponent? He asked. I will throw away my pride, honor, everything to defeat you. Consider it a sign of respect, lad. Minami stopped running when she saw Ryo, accompanied by ectoplasm clones walking in front of her. Himiko cut Danjiro's path off and kicked him in the face, knocking him down and pinning him again. You were the strongest opponent I've ever faced. You were the only one with real conviction. You would have made a great hero. Minami ran back. Gentle, there are heroes on the way. She stopped when she saw Danjiro was defeated. Run, save yourself, Danjiro said. Minami dropped her laptop. No, stop, take your hands off of him. Let my gentle go. She punched Himiko. Get off him, now, she cried. Gentle poured his whole heart into this scheme. He even forgot to take his beloved tea breaks while he worked. You want to show the world a bright future. Can't you see Gentle as my only light? Don't take him from me, please. I'll have nothing left. Pink smoke rose from Danjiro once more and he threw Himiko off of him, out of sight. He hugged Minami and waited for Ryo to find them. I'm afraid I took a tumble in the park. I'm turning myself in. Himiko quickly collected Minami's camera and then the rope she left behind and got back to campus at 9:50. Having measured out Tenya's blood to last until just before 10, she transformed back into herself in time for the performance. In December the Wild Pussycats visited 1A. We're back in business, Ryoko Tsuchikawa said. Congratulations, that's wonderful, Momo said. Is it because you got your quirk back? Nope, Tomoko denied. This will be announced later but Shino explained. It's our spot on the Japanese hero billboard chart. You see, we're ranked 411 this term. You were ranked 32 last term, right? Izuku asked. So it's cause your rank went down. That makes sense, Eijiro said. No, silly, Tomoko denied again. Isn't it weird that we're still in the triple digits even though we haven't done any hero work? It's due to our approval rating. Yuara said. That number gave us a big boost. There are people waiting for us to return, Ryoko Tsuchimikawa said. No way we can just wait on the sidelines. Tomoko cheered. So you're doing it for the public. Eijiro concluded. You're so manly, wild pussycats. He cried. At the Japanese hero billboard chart, the second half of the year's top heroes were announced. The announcer spoke. Number 10. Recently becoming a pro hero after the passing of his former mentor and his graduation, he already had enough saves and public favor to put him in the top 10 as a student. The hero destined to save a million people, Lemillion. Power, Mirio screamed, walking onto the stage. Number 9. Dragoon hero, Yukio. Honestly, I don't think I deserve to place this highly, Ryoko Tatsuma said, walking up next to Mirio. Number 8. From the Clean and Shiny commercial, it's everyone's favorite laundry hero. Wash. Wash. Wash a washa, Susugu said, walking up. Number 7. In a huge leap up the charts. It's Kamui Woods. I'm honored, Shin said, walking up. Number 6. From the orthodox school of manliness comes a regular in the top 10. Shield hero. Crust. I wish I could have seen more of All Might in action, Crust said on stage, crying. Such a shame. Number 5. This bunny's spirit is infectious. Rabbit hero. Mirko. I heard you formed a team, Rumi said to Shinya. Talk about weak. Number 4. Check out the huge increase in this mysterious ninja's resolved cases. Ninja hero. Edshot. Compose yourself. We're in public, Shinya said back to Rumi. He's currently on hiatus, but he's still ranked highly, with the number 2 approval rating this round. It's Fiber hero, best genist. We're all hoping for him to return as soon as possible. Number 2. He does things his own way. Wing hero. Hawks. Finally, he's been the temporary number 1. But, today he'll officially inherit that sacred spot. After all this time. Flame hero. Endeavor. Izuku looked over his current abilities whilst flipping through a notebook detailing them. First there's Jack, who gives me immortality and quirk copying, but with the strange limitation of Jack being sentient and desiring specific quirks. Jack also grants me regeneration by consuming flesh or by dying. Then regeneration grants constant regeneration but is weakened by my other quirks constantly ripping my body apart. Float, along with Lizard Tail Splitter, provide flight. Lizard Tail Splitter also allows me to split my body up and makes me immune to slamming damage. Invisibility makes my body invisible, and camouflage makes myself and everything I'm wearing translucent. Half Cold allows me to create ice, although it doesn't look like I can create ice constructs. Mimicry, Poltergeist, Telekinesis and Zero Gravity are different variations of Poltergeist abilities. Mimicry allows me to possess an object. Poltergeist and Telekinesis are push and pull forces respectively, and Zero Gravity makes things float. Additionally, if I pull things sideways before pulling them in with Telekinesis, I can make them orbit me, which is how I make tornadoes. Permeation allows me to move through objects and shoot out of them. I lose senses and can't breath when permeated, but I can still see the quirks of people thanks to search. Voice gives me a Banshee Shriek. There may be more to it, but that's all Present Mike uses it for, and it causes too much damage to my throat to really practice with it. It's more of a finishing move. Fire Breath, Half Hot and Hell Flame all give me fire. I'd like to learn some of Endeavor's techniques, but with the commission acting as if my lantern identity is a villainous triplet, that can't happen. Maybe I can try to figure out the techniques myself. Even just Hell Spider would be a useful addition to my arsenal. I currently use blood control to allow Jack and myself to drink my blood so that we can maintain the appearance of being two whole people. Blood control can also be used to trap opponents, and I might be able to use it to form weapons. Blood Curdle can also trap opponents by paralyzing them. Transform can make me look like others, perfect for espionage, and apparently if I awaken it, it will become another copy quirk. Shock Absorption makes me resistant to bludgeoning damage, especially when I combine it with Dark Shadow. The name is interesting. If it absorbs energy, and stockpile stores energy, can I store the kinetic energy that I'm hit with? Super strength is super strength. Stockpile makes all of my physical attributes stronger and boosts all of my quirks and can store quirks. And finally there's transfer, somehow the strangest quirk I have, except maybe Jack. At first glance I can give somebody else some of my quirks by having them digest my DNA, but also, it can transfer a vestige of its previous users which future users can interact with in their dreams. Izuku met up with each user of a quirk he had copied that he had befriended and inquired about how they used their quirks. Most notably he found that Keigo figured Dark Shadow could allow the user to fly. I didn't realize Dark Shadow was levitating, I assumed it used the user as support and Jack was using Float to not weigh me down. But that's still just something I can stack with Float and Lizard Tail Splitter to improve my current abilities. I should find a way of doing something new. He then asked Toru, have you found any new ways of using invisibility? Yeah, Toru said excitedly, I can refract the light around me to create flashes of light, blinding my opponents. The light in front of Izuku seemed to brighten as she explained. That's something new, how do I do that? Alright Izuku, Jack, we're going to take this slow, Ryo growled. Remember, Midoriya, deep, slow breaths and take note of your environment to remind yourself that you're safe. I can provide you with water and warm blankets and we can stop whenever you want. Understood, Izuku confirmed. Good, Ryo looked to Jack, you may begin, slowly. Right, Jack said before slightly lifting his hold on Izuku's emotions. Izuku felt his hairs shoot up, and his heart rate and his breathing quickened. He fought against his increased breathing rate, forcing himself to take deep, slow breaths as Ryo had instructed. He started sweating. He began feeling dizzy as the room appeared to spin and his sight narrowed as tears fell from his eyes. He fidgeted in his chair and he began to shake. Izuku's fingers numbed and his chest tightened painfully. The fear fought back against Izuku as he began to choke. He felt like he was going to die. Fuck, he muttered, the mutters increasing in rate and volume. Izuku vomited. Izuku felt as if he were no longer in his body, but watching himself from afar. Soon it seemed like his surroundings didn't even exist, that all there was fear and pain. His vision started to darken. He screamed. As he curled into himself he made sure to maintain his breathing. He caught glimpses of his surroundings. There was Ryo in front of him, water and blanket ready for him. To his right was Jack, watching him curiously. To his left were books of therapy, mostly anger management. Above him were the lights in the roof, and he curled up again he saw himself. He was still in Ryo's office. He felt his face, confirming his proceeds. He felt his chair showing he was indeed still sitting. He felt the air in the room, a cool breeze, and he felt the warm liquid that came out of his mouth that he'd rather have not acknowledged. He heard the soft growl of Ryo, confirming that he was not angering the dog quirk user. He heard birds singing outside the office, a beautiful tune that helped to ground him, and he heard his breathing, deep and slow, as it should be. He smelt the breeze. The first thing he smelt was petrichor, followed by cut grass. Finally he acknowledged the sour taste in his mouth from the vomit. He uncurled himself and sat back up, his breathing steady. May I have the water now? I want to get rid of this taste. Ryo smiled. Of course. He handed Izuku the water which Izuku slowly drank. You did very well today. It won't be long until I will be able to allow Jack to regulating your emotions outside of my office. Jack, in Izuku's body, walked up to Katsuki, who was busy cleaning the entire MLA mansion. Izuku and Katsuki had made a habit of cleaning everything, and when they finished, they restarted with a different scent. Jack snickered at Katsuki's grumbling at the task, but they knew that in the end, it would be worth it. Class 1A, Class 1B, and Hitoshi stood before Shota and Sekijiro in front of Field Gamma. Everybody was wearing their winter outfits. Shinso will be joining in on your training. He's hoping to be one of you, so treat him as you would any classmate, Shota informed. This will be a battle between classes 1A and 1B, here in Field Gamma. You will be grouped in teams of 4, each competing one at a time. Having Shinso on your team will likely be a handicap due to his lack of experience, Sekijiro instructed. Listen closely to the scenario. You're all hero agencies trying to capture a villain organization. You should consider your opponents to be evil criminals. You'll win if you capture 4 competitors. In your team's base camp, you'll find an adorably decorated prison. Once you put your enemies behind bars, that will count as a capture. Izuku and Shinso have been pre-assigned to Class 1A Team 5, Shota said. Now, draw your lots. Shota and Sekijiro held up boxes for the students to draw teams from. Fight 1. Denki, Eijiro, Koji, and Su vs Hirayu, Abara, Jirota, and Kosei. Fight 2. Fumikage, Momo, Toru, and Yuga vs Kanoko, Itsuka, Manga, and Shihai. Fight 3. Mashirao, Mezzo, Shoto, and Tenya vs Juzo, Pony, Sen, and Tetsu. Fight 4. Honta, Kyoka, Mina, and Rikido, vs Kojira, Setsuna, Togaru, and Yosetsu. Fight 5. Himiko, Hitoshi, Izuku, and Ochako vs Nido, Narengeki, Reiko, and Yui. Welcome to the team, fellow underground hero from General Studies. Himiko cheered to Hitoshi. Let's destroy 1B with our ultimate team. She cheered. The competitors for the first match entered their sides of Field Gamma. Fighters, take your marks. Sekijiro announced. And start. Su camouflaged and clung to the walls, acting as a lookout. Doves flew down to Koji. Thank you, friends. Shiozaki's to our left, alone. She's using her vines to feel out her surroundings as she heads this way. Jirota ran into Class 1A, grabbing Eijiro and Su, he then threw them into pipes and concrete. We knew you guys would send Kota to search for us, and we planned accordingly. Denki shot his pointers at Jirota. You can't use much electricity with your friends around, can you? Kosei asked Denki, riding on Jirota's back. You don't want to shock them. He breathed solid air over Koji. Air prison. Consider this our win already. Jirota grabbed Denki, who then discharged. The result was Jirota and Kosei getting electrocuted as Denki was thrown to the side. Jirota managed to shake off the shock. Kosei was knocked out and Su grabbed him with her tongue and ran to 1A's prison. Eijiro threw off the pipes he was under and punched the solid air around Koji. When the air didn't break, Eijiro went Red Riot, unbreakable mode and smashed through the air. The two of them readied themselves to block Jirota from getting past them. Jirota reverted to his human form and slipped between them. He then returned to beast mode and grabbed Eijiro and Koji. Only one of you can stand up to my strength. You're a tough one, Kirishima. So you'll go first. He tossed Eijiro into the air, sending him towards Abara. I've spotted a lost sheep plummeting from the sky, Abara said, grabbing Eijiro with her vines. Both teams have now captured one opponent. Jirota smelled Denki and Su running in for sneak attacks and jumped over them. Koji tried to resist Jirota's hold, and Jirota couldn't fight whilst holding Koji. So, Jirota withdrew with Koji. 1A is down to Denki and Su. 1B still has Hirayu, Abara, and Jirota. There are 2 Asuis coming this way, Jirota said. There are multiple frogs, Hirayu asked, so that must be their strategy. They're confusing your sense of smell. If that's the case, I must chastise them, Abara said, her vines growing. If they're headed this way, one of them must have recon powers, Hirayu theorized. He then noticed one of Denki's pointers on Jirota's pants. Hey, a Poke Beast, something's stuck to you. It looks like part of Kaminari's gear. One person's captured, Abara said. I will drag them into the light. Be ready for anything, Hirayu said. We don't know who it is. Kaminari could be coming in hot. Right about that, Denki said, flying towards the 1B members. Sucks to be you. A sacrificial lamb, Abara said, creating a shield of vines. Denki shot his electricity, and it arced directly for Jirota, via the pointer. This time, Jirota was stunned. Su grabbed Hirayu with her tongue and threw him into Abara, knocking them both out. Denki and Su could take out any of the 3 if they started waking up, allowing them to capture the 3 remaining members. 1A wins. After 1B winning round 2 and round 3 ending in a draw, the competitors for the 4th match entered their sides of Field Gamma. After the round started, Kyoka started scouting and Honta started laying traps with his tape. 1B's team decided to go for a surprise attack due to 1A's composition being powerful. Class 1A made their way through the pipes, using Kyoka to keep track of their surroundings and listen for 1B. There was one problem: Kyoka could hear too many enemies ahead. Something's wrong. Honda quickly shot tape around them to create a defense. Kojiro covered the tape in glue, turning the defenses into a cage. Togaru flew in with his bladed arms, slicing through pipes to make them fall on 1A. Rikido prepared to catch the pipes until Mina pulled him and the rest of 1A's team through a hole she made in the glue cage. Togaru went in to slice Kyoka, but again Mina saved her with a veil of acid. 1B retreated. "Let's win this, guys," Mina cheered. "Perfect victory, here we come." Kyoka listened to their surroundings again. "There's less of Tokage's body parts tapping about. And they're moving away from us." Kyoka pointed out the location of Kojiro and Honda swung in to fight him. Yosetsu revealed he was hiding next to Kojiro and welded Honda to some pipes. Tosetsu began running. Rikido punched through the pipes, freeing Honda. Honda grabbed Kyoka and swung after Yosetsu. Jiro plugged her jacks into her speakers, hitting Yosetsu with the amplified sound of her heartbeat. Mina created another veil of acid to prevent Tokage from flying in to help. After the other three went after Yosetsu, Rikido continued after Kojiro, knocking him out. Togaru tried to slice through Honda's tape, but Mina continued being 1A's shield, melting through Togaru's blades before throwing him to Rikido to knock out. Honda made sure to tape down any of Setsuna's body parts that he could in between, creating traps, flying around, and tying down the three captured 1B members. As a result, Setsuna's stamina was quickly draining. Using Honda's tape, Rikido swung Mina at Setsuna, who grabbed her and covered her in acid, using the fact that Setsuna can heal to make the acid more potent than usual. Setsuna's quirk worked overtime to heal her, using the last of her stamina. She fell to the ground. 1A wins. The competitors for the fifth match entered their sides of Field Gamma. "Both teams specialize in sneak attacks," Izuku said. "We've got Toga and Shinso, both of whom have quirks that rely on the opponents not knowing what they can do. Ochako can fly and make things float. She is also trained in martial arts. As for our opponents, when Shota hits something, he can hit it again remotely later, the second for being much stronger. Yanagi has telekinesis. Kodai can change the size of objects. That just leaves Monoma and I, the copycats. The last time I saw him, he had blood control permanently copied and could copy 3 additional quirks. It's safe to assume those 3 are Twin Impact, Poltergeist, and Size. Those 3 quirks make for a powerful combination with one drawback: they're completely physical." He looks to his team. "I'll take out Monoma. I trust you 3 can handle Shota, Kodai, and Yanagi." Himiko grinned. "Let's make them bleed." Ochako cheered. "We got this." Hitoshi rolled his eyes. Sekijiro called for the 8 competitors to begin. Izuku saluted. He then fell backwards, through the floor. Himiko looked to Ochako. "I need blood samples from our opponents to turn into them. I think we should use you as bait. And I mean the real you. My equipment wouldn't transform if I used your blood." She then looked to Shinso. "You and Ochako specialize in restraining opponents, which will allow me to get my samples." "Sound like a plan." "Yep," Ochako agreed. "Sure," Hitoshi said. "It will allow me to get my own samples." Himiko and Ochako looked at Hitoshi confused before shrugging. The 3 found an open area with nearby hiding places. Himiko and Hitoshi hid whilst Ochako acted like she was lost. "Don't be too obvious," Himiko informed. "You want to look lost, but you don't want to seem like you want people to know you're lost. You want to look lost but don't want people to know you're lost." I'm lost," Ochako said, confused. "Perfect." Himiko gave the "okay" sign. Izuku zoomed through the faux industrial complex. It didn't take long for him to find 1B's prison. From there he searched for any sign of the 1B members, hopefully Nito. It didn't take long for him to notice Nito standing on top of the tallest nearby tower, looking as smug as ever. Izuku landed in front of Monoma. "After a duel, best copier wins." "Oh, no, we already know how bullshit your quirk is. How many times more quirks you have than I can handle." Nito shook his head. "I was thinking, all your quirks are themed around undeath, but I don't think you have brainwashing, do you?" "Brainwashing?" Izuku asked. Jack started listening in intrigue. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but isn't one of a vampire's most infamous powers mind control? Nito grinned. Sadly, you only get so many chances to be around him. You're practically wasting your chance to get a rare ability that would be vital to truly be undead. Jack flew out of Izuku, pulling him away from Nito. We're getting that quirk. You have got to be shitting me. Izuku complained. Now's not the time. This is a pointless exercise. If we want to be the best vampire, we need that quirk. And did you just ragdoll Lantern in the middle of the MLA mansion? I quickly put the body out of sight. Is that why I taste dirt? Don't worry about where I put your second body. Ochako noticed metal objects flying at her. She tried to dodge them, but they suddenly shot forward and doubled in size, hitting her anyway. Ow. Got her, Reiko said, standing on a roof above Ochako. Looks like the spooky boy isn't here. Does she know Toga and Shinso are here? Ochako thought. Kodai must be here as well. Hitoshi thought. Himiko quickly bounded from pipe to pipe, her footwork elegant and quiet. When she got close to Reiko, she shot her blood extractors. One of the extractors was knocked out of the way by a barrel which seemed to appear out of nowhere. Kodai's here, Himiko shouted. The other extractor managed to stab Reiko, sucking out some blood before she pulled it off. Reiko finished restocking her barrage and aimed at Himiko. Himiko nimbly dodged each projectile, even when they grew in size and speed. How is she doing that? Narangeki asked from next to Reiko. The girl's agile, Yui said from behind. Let's just finish Uraraka, Narangeki said. Right, Reiko suddenly stopped. What? Narangeki asked. That sounded like me, but that's Shinso's quirk. Himiko dashed forward and kicked Reiko down to Ochako, who knocked her out. Himiko grinned at Narangeki and Yui. You two are witnesses to me extracting Unagi's blood. I'll just have to take both of you out as well. She shot a blood extractor at each of them. They quickly dodged. Izuku slammed into the roof where Himiko was fighting Narangeki and Yui before sliding off and landing where Ochako, Hitoshi, and Reiko were. Ow. Fuck. Izuku. The other 1A members asked as Izuku got up and started wrestling Jack. Jack noticed Hitoshi and flew over to him before turning off Izuku's regeneration and activating One for All. Izuku's body quickly decayed, killing him. What the fuck? Himiko looked back to where Narangeki and Yui were. They were gone. So, they used Jack against Izuku to take him out. She jumped down to Ochako and Shinso. Shinso stared at Izuku's corpse. What the fuck? You'll get used to it, Himiko said. Ochako looked down at Reiko. We've taken out one of theirs, but we've lost our powerhouse. Monoma has Reiko's quirk, along with the other two's. And he also has blood control permanently. Izuku theorized that blood control can be used as a simpler version of creation. And they know about your voice mimicry, Shinso, as that you have Reiko's blood, Himiko. I can just fly and make things float. I think we've lost. Boys aren't the only ones who can have trump cards, Uraraka, Himiko winked mischievously. She knelt down to Izuku's corpse and drew blood before drinking it. And I bet they weren't expecting me to transform into an ally. Your plan is to trick them into thinking Izuku's still in the fight? Hitoshi asked. Nope, Himiko grinned. My plan is to bring Izuku back into the fight. And Izumi. She started running through the pipes. Come on. Ochako and Hitoshi followed Himiko through the faux industrial complex. They didn't know what she was planning to do, but they didn't have a plan, so following her was the best option. Uraraka, you can fly and I'm the fastest and nimblest here. We can travel at Shinso's speed whilst the two of us keep watch. Himiko bounded between pipes, but she wasn't looking for 1B, she was hiding the parts of her coming off. Himiko could already see exactly where Nito was. Eventually, they found all three members waiting for them at the 1B prison. We would have had tea, but we weren't allowed to bring a tea set, Nito laughed. Why are you pretending to be Midoriya, Toga? Did you really think you would fool us? Hate to break it to you, Himiko said. But I am Izuku. A second Himiko, who looks like Himiko, walked out from behind Ochako and Hitoshi. Huh, echoed the voices of Ochako, Hitoshi, and 1B. Cheese. The second Himiko cheered. Nito gritted his teeth. I thought you said he died. He looked to Narangeki and Yui before regaining his composure. He cleared his throat. Regardless, the superiority of 1B will still bring us victory. He shot a blood spear at the original Himiko. Himiko phased through the spear. Himiko punched Nito, who blocked her with a blood shield. Narengeki and Yui started grabbing ammunition for Nito to use Poltergeist on. Nito shot the projectiles at Ochako and Hitoshi, knocking them down. A blood spear splits Nito's blood shield. What the fuck? The original Himiko grinned evilly, holding the blood spear. Suddenly her head detached and she ignited into a green flame. You wanna play? Nito fell down, frightened. Lantern, sup bitch. Himiko punched out Nito. Multiple projectiles hit her. Let's take her down quickly. Yui shouted. Alright. Narengeki froze. Ochako grabbed Yui as she was distracted, pinning her down. 1A wins, and they win overall 1-3. Izuku walked up to Himiko. So, you know, that you're Izumi, or rather, Izumi isn't real. Yep. Himiko tried to smirk, but there was clearly a hint of sadness there. You're not mad. I'm annoyed, she sighed, but I realize some big wig must have you by the balls. That's how we can be at UA, right? Yeah, he also sighed. The Hero Association wants to use my separate identities to do their dirty work. I work for the association, and in return, we get to be heroes. I just wish you could have told me instead of waiting for me to figure it out for myself. I wanted to. I was afraid. I'm sorry. He looked down in shame. Hey, I know I'm scary. No more secrets. I'll try. Thank you. By the way, how does the association feel about me revealing your secret to 40 students? They're not the happiest. But they can't really punish you as you didn't violate any laws. You might find it harder to rise in the hero rankings, but I know you don't care about that. Sweet. She grinned. Speaking of sweet, you can make up for lying to me but letting me drink your blood. Izuku sighed warmly. Of course. She lifted his head up and kissed him. Izuku bowed to his fellow 1A and 1B members. My name is Izuku Midoriya. What I am about to say to you all is highly classified and revealing any of this can have serious consequences. I have no brothers. Izumi and Lantern were personas I made to survive on the streets and to achieve my goals as a vigilante. When I was captured by UA, I was given the opportunity to gain my freedom by not only joining 1A alongside Himiko, but by working for the Hero Public Safety Commission. I use Izumi, my Flatline persona, to do the work they don't want public figures to do. I'm using Lantern to infiltrate a villain organization known as the MLA. My quirk allows me to copy the closest quirk to me whenever I die, no matter the quirk. However, my quirk is sentient and has a thing for the undead. Izuku had been accepted by Enji to train at the Endeavor Agency, but that wasn't the biggest problem for Izuku right now, neither was the Meta Liberation Army going to war with the League of Villains. The biggest problem for Izuku was that the MLA was using Kagero to lure in the League, and Izuku was given the job of torturer. He and Kagero were stationed at the top of a tower along with Tomiyasu and Rikia. The tower oversaw a city full of citizens that completely believed in the MLA's cause. Izuku had taken several fingers from Kagero already, using his fire to cauterize the wounds. Izuku made Jack completely turn off his empathy so as not to break out in tears as he tortures one of his oldest allies. For once Izuku envied the Sisyphean task Katsuki was performing. Izuku would gladly trade torturing Kagero for cleaning the mansion, then starting again with a new fragrance whenever he was done. And if Katsuki was doing this job, it would mean Izuku could show up as Flatline and beat the shit out of Katsuki when the war finally happens. As the League made their way through the town to the tower where Kagero was being held, Izuku hoped one side would win soon. I've found twice, Tomiyasu said, typing into his laptop from the top of the tower. He's hiding in a backyard. He sent his doppelgangers after Jin. When Jin saw the doppelgangers, he was frozen with fear. The doppelgangers attacked. Stop it, leave him alone. Kagero pleaded. Who is it? Where's the real me? Jin asked his doppelgangers. Am I a copy? Have I been lying to myself this whole time? I'm gonna tear myself in two. Am I the original? Is this the real me? Whoami. Grab his arms, Tomiyasu said, the doppelgangers doing as directed. Break them. The doppelgangers bent Jin's arms until they snapped. Gah, do what I say and this stops, got it. Resistance is pointless. The pain, My arms. It hurts, Jin smiled weakly through his tears. It's bad, but even though it hurts, I'm not disappearing. Ha 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 ha. I've been careful to avoid any real injuries. Because I was afraid I would disappear. It's been like this for so long. No matter what, I keep making the wrong choices. I could have figured this out right away if I just hurt myself, but I kept falling and failing, until I met them. He threw off the doppelgangers. Out of the way, you fakes. Brown slime secreted from Jin before turning into 2 Jin doubles, each of which made 2 Jin doubles, and so on. You will fear me, Liberation Army. I'll show you the extent of my quirk. Let's go. Twice. It's time for a massacre. The doubles chanted as they attacked the doppelgangers. The flood of Jin doubles flowed out of the yard, attacking the citizens of the MLA city. Soon the streets were blackened from the endless doubles. March of Grief. Sad man's parade. What a surprise, Rikia said. He's overcome his psychological trauma. Tomoyasu quickly made an exit, claiming this was not a failure. Tamura and Shuichi ran into several MLA citizens as they made their way to the tower. Right before they got attacked, Jin's doubles shielded them. You're incredible twice, Shigaraki complimented. Think you'll have enough clones to clear a path to the tower for me? Someone said their boss and Jiren are holed up inside there. I thought that it might be a bluff, but, the closer we get, the more enemies there are. They're protecting something. We need to leave enough pawns to take on Makia, but I want to make sure their big boss is dead. Yeah, you got it, a Jin double said. Why don't you go take a nap whilst we trim the fat for ya? We'll take down the Liberation Army with a single multiple person. Not long after, one of Jin's doubles got to the top of the tower. There you are. You're the one who made us come here. What a crappy move. Oh, so you made it to the tower? Rikia asked. Jin's double made a double of himself and a double of Tamura. The double then made a double of himself and a double of Dabi. The third made a double of himself and Atsuhiro. The fourth made 2 doubles of himself, etc. That was quite a number of soldiers waiting for you downstairs, Rikia complimented. Your meta ability must be wonderful, just like Skeptic said. The first Jin double ran for Rikia, who swiped, decapitating the double. Pretty fragile clone, Rikia said. Also, I'm pretty sure you don't know what the term hostage means. Bubegawara, if you make any more clones, Jiren is dead. Rikia looked to Izuku, who made a flame blade and held it to Jiren's throat. He's not a formal member of your group, so I don't really want to kill him, but I will. The Tamura, Dabi, and Atsuhiro clones attacked, to which Rikia responded by making his arm enormous and swiping them out of the tower. Useless fodder. It's ridiculous to think we're even fighting in the same ring. He noticed Jin making a clone to get to Kagero. Izuku looked to Rikia for an order. Secretly he was hoping Rikia might not tell him to kill Kagero since Jin just disobeyed the order. But as Izuku looked to him, he noticed Tamura creeping up to Rikia. Tamura tried to grab Rikia's face, but missed, dodging Rikia's counterattack. Rikia shot his hand at Tamura, smashing it through the tower. Rikia continued to swipe at Tamura, who tried to get in close, neither being able to hit the other until Rikia caught Tamura. Heads up twice, Tamura said. If you want to protect Jiren, you'll need a cushion. I caught onto the tower as I was blown out of it. I saw him down below. He's close. I'd touch it if I were him. Izuku quickly detached his head and used it to float Kagero. As he did, the real Tamura touched the tower. Cracks spread throughout the tower, the entire structure crumbling. Half of Izuku's body went with it, but he'd made it seem like only Lantern's head could float, so he had to sacrifice it to keep up appearances. Are you okay? He asked, far enough away from Rikia to show actual concern. Could be better, kid, Kagero replied. I'll give you 10 million yen as compensation for your fingers. And you can consider me temporarily losing my body to be my punishment for kidnapping you. Kagero grinned weakly. I'm feeling better already. Jiren, I'm going to give you one warning as a friend. Izuku looked to Kagero with a serious expression. Izuku looked down to the battle between the real Tamura and Rikia. He knew this meant the war was about to begin. Run. That morning you could hear a pin drop. The only heroes roaming the streets were those confirmed to have joined the Meta Liberation Army, now the Paranormal Liberation Front. The other heroes were gathered in 2 police headquarters across Japan. Izuku, along with most of 1A and Hitoshi, were with Shinha as they had been assigned to Team Edgeshot. Team Edgeshot was going to attack the PLF's mansion, Gunja Mountain Villa. The rest of 1A were with Enji, assigned to Team Endeavor. Also in the room with Enji, much to Ken's annoyance, was Jack. Team Endeavor was going after Jaku Hospital. Izuku's third persona, Lantern, was posted inside the mansion, Jack switching between controlling Flatline and Lantern to keep suspicions low. Heroes, the idea is to take out the entire Paranormal Liberation Front as one sweep. Naomasa said. After months of cleaning, Katsuki's hopes were finally lifted. That morning, he finished his final cleaning everything with the exception of Jin's room. Today would be the day he finally got to let loose. I still don't understand why you did this, Chitose said. What was the purpose of repeatedly cleaning everything with different scents? Katsuki looked at the time. He grinned, so that the extras wouldn't be suspicious when I started making everything smell like burnt caramel. Chitose's expression turned from curiosity to shock. Jack walked Lantern to the center of the mansion, grinning evilly from ear to ear. He then read Izuku's thoughts. Jack, it's time. Show them what we've been saving for a special day. Tick tick boom. Jack used zombie virus and then quickly switched back to Flatline. Lantern, and a few other PLF members, breathed in the smoke, zombifying them. As zombies randomly used their quirks, Jack did so, igniting. With Katsuki's sweat coating everything, the small flame turned into an explosion that blew up the mansion. Most of the PLF's members were taken out in one blow, leaving only the strongest ones. Those that remained had to deal with the zombies and pro-heroes. As the explosion blew apart the mansion, almost completely collapsing, Ken reformed the concrete to force any remaining members into fighting the heroes head-on. Chitose and Katsuki were 2 of those who remained mostly unharmed due to them both having explosion resistance. Katsuki threw off the rubble that fell on him and smirked wickedly at Chitose. I didn't think a weakened explosion like that would be enough to kill you. But my explosions are just as strong, whilst being far more concentrated. Let's fight. Fuck you. Chitose repeatedly grabbed rubble, turning it into bombs, before throwing it at Katsuki and exploding it. The weak explosions were nothing to Katsuki, who quickly pointed his palm at Chitose. AP shot. He blasted her in the head, knocking her out. Fuck, that feels good. Katsuki then went on a rampage. He's coming, Yoichi warned, Izuku and Jack both hearing it. Stop him. It will begin soon. I don't have much time. In the direction of Jaku Hospital, an enormous flock of birds could be seen fleeing. A cloud of dust followed, covering the mountains. Next, the buildings cracked and collapsed. Purple lines spread throughout Jaku, eating everything, and everybody, that they touched. Shigaraki, Jack said before grabbing as many civilians as he could. He activated stockpile, and using super strength in his fast twitch muscles, he sprinted. After Enji went in to stop Tamura, Jack and Mirio heard him say on the intercoms, "One for all." Jack and Mirio looked at each other, silently making sure the other knew what that means. Tamura is after them. You can keep him off the ground, right? Jack asked. Because I can't fly. Yep, Mirio confirmed cheerfully. Come on, let's lure him away from the civilians. The 2 ran for the closest unpopulated region. Mirio radioed Enji. This is Lemillion. Shigaraki is after Lifeline, Flatline, and myself. Flatline and I are luring him to an unpopulated area. Keep this channel open. The 2 shot through the outskirts of what was Jaku City. After a while, they heard their intercoms turn to static. Then, Tomura appeared in front of them. Sorihiko appeared, seemingly out of nowhere, and grabbed Jack, saving him from being touched by Tamura as Lemillion phased through Tamura's hand. Other pro-heroes arrived, helping to take down Tamura. Enji and Ryoko Tatsuma took on Tamura as Shota erased his quirk. As the backup arrived, Nomu broke through the ground. Tamura moved behind Enji before slamming him into Ryoko Tatsuma, shooting them both into the ground before landing on top of them and raising his fist to mimic a victory pose. Tamura then ran after Shota. Right before Tamura grabbed Shota, Jack and Mirio grabbed him. Sorry, we can't have you killing Eraserhead, Mirio said, wrapping Tamura in Black Whip. Tamura still managed to shoot forward before Jack slammed him into the ground. Enji then flew over, blasting Tamura away from Shota. Sorahiko kicked Tamura. Tamura flipped around, flying into the air. Jack shot up, slamming into Tamura from beneath before pulling out his machine pistols and emptying them into Tamura. Mirio used Black Whip to keep Tamura restrained. Surrender. Jack yelled without using Izuku's voice. Why whoa? Tamura responded before freezing. All too, Jack started to say. Tamura's hands rose before clapping, creating a shockwave that woke him up and blasted everybody back. Nimari radioed Momo, telling her and the rest of the work-study students at the mansion to prepare to put Gigantomachia to sleep. Momo started making canisters of tranquilizer. She made one for each word-study member as the others prepared for Gigantomachia's arrival. She then started burying bombs. Izuku and Himiko prepared by making the ground slippery and creating ice barriers. Gigantomachia ran into the clearing. The members of the League of Villains that were at the mansion, as well as Tomiyasu, were on his back. He slipped and fell into the ground. As he tried to get up, several students tried to keep him restrained. Hey, ugly, Hitoshi yelled, to no response. It was worth a shot. Izuku flew up to him and threw Gigantomachia, ending up in his mouth. Izuku then slammed downwards. The force managed to crack Gigantomachia's jaw, but it didn't budge. This guy's tough. Green lightning flashed around Izuku and he tried again. 50%. Izuku broke Gigantomachia's jaw, opening it before being blasted with blue flames. Fuck. Izuku grabbed Gigantomachia's tongue and used it to block Dabi's barrage before flying back out of Gigantomachia. Meanwhile, Himiko went for Gigantomachia's legs, trying to punch through them, but just cracking them as well. She covered them in ice to weaken them. She then shouted, yeah. The ice shattered and Gigantomachia's legs began to bleed profusely. Gigantomachia sneezed the blue flames throughout the forest, preventing the work-study students from being able to get to Gigantomachia. Even Izuku and Himiko were trapped under the flames. The buried bombs exploded, sinking Gigantomachia deeper. The remaining heroes after the raid caught up to Gigantomachia and attacked him. Mina flew through the fire using a Sidman. She froze when she saw Gigantomachia face. Gigantomachia went to grab Mina. Eijiro shot up, knocking Mina out of the way before being grabbed instead as Gigantomachia slammed him into the ground. With great effort, Gigantomachia stood. The heroes that the League of Villain members fought fell off his back. Eijiro climbed up Gigantomachia, holding both his and Mina's vials of tranquilizer, throwing them into Gigantomachia's mouth. Shoto got to the fight against Tamura. Tamura flipped over Enji's blast, continuing to move towards Shota. Sorahiko went to kick Tamura, but Tamura grabbed his leg and snapped it. Tamura punched down onto Sorahiko before loading a bullet into his gun prosthetic. Tamura shot past Jack and Mirio. Mirio quickly changed course to restrain Tamura with the help of Jack and Ryoko Tatsuma. Tamura punched through Ryoko Tatsuma's hand, pushing his gun prosthetic through. Jack slammed his arm down, only for Tamura to catch it in his teeth. Tamura shot the bullet, hitting Shota's leg, making Shota flinch. Tamura blasted Jack, Mirio, and Ryoko Tatsuma off himself. He shot forward towards Shota. He grabbed Shota's face as Mirio wrapped him up in Black Whip and Shoto stabbed him with a wall of ice. Tamura touched the ice, decaying it. What's your plan to stop me now? You're just delaying the inevitable. Tamura tried to touch the ground, but the effort split his skin open due to his transformation being incomplete. Whatever, so I'm not regenerating instantly. I'll just rely on decay, he said as he braced his arm and slammed it down. Mirio wrapped Tamura in Black Whip again, flying as high as he could. You ready, everybody? Let's show him power. Enji grabbed Tamura from behind. Plus Ultra, Prominence Burn. He engulfed Tamura in a hailstorm of flames. Ah! Tamura screamed before shooting black and red rivets from his hands and through Enji. All for one, through Tamura's body, then pointed his hands at Jack and Mirio, shooting the rivets for them. Mirio phased through the rivets, but they hit Jack. Jack snapped the rivets before jumping for Tamura, who was too busy fighting all for one to notice the fist flying at him. Jack punched Tamura. Tamura grabbed Jack's face. You're finally mine. Come to me, one for all. I'm going to say this, one last time. Jack grinned. Tick, Tick. Boom. His suit's bomb exploded, destroying his own body and almost killing Tamura. Rivet stab burst from Tamura's spine, countering Black Whip. Gigantomachia then burst onto the scene. Nejire also made it to the scene, along with Tenya. 100% Nejire flood. Nejire blasted Tamura with a huge wave of energy. Flashfire fist jet kindling. Shoto punched Tamura with a flaming fist. Gearshift. Fa Jin. One for all 100%. Power. Mirio went to punch Tamura, but the attack was blocked by Gigantomachia, destroying Gigantomachia's hand. No, that was my ultimate move. I'm out of the fight now. Shoto and Nejire were knocked back, and Tamura was knocked out. Dabi then climbed onto Gigantomachia's and stood tall. Hey, there you are, he said, looking down at Enji. From up here, everybody looks like little ants. He then noticed Shoto as well. Shoto's with you. Perfect. Dabi. Enji yelled. As a video played on every station across Japan playing the propaganda Dabi has recorded against the heroes, Dabi poured hair dye remover over his hair, changing it to white. Hey now, don't be rude. You're acting like we've never met. Call me Tuya. After all, it's the name you and Mum gave me. After several minutes of dancing and proclaiming his hatred, Dabi, or rather, Tuya, jumped down. Flash fire fist prominence burn. Steel threads tied up Tuya, Gigantomachia, and the other league members. Sorry I'm late, Tsunagu said. As of this moment, Best Jeanist is back. Apologies, it was my intention to arrive far earlier. Tuya ignited himself again, blasting Nejire. Oh, no, Endeavor. You let another person get burned. Another kid with a bright future ruined because of you. His flames burnt through the cables. Destroy it all. Makia. Tamura whispered, half awake. Gigantomachia screamed and began standing, bursting through the cables. Where heroes were fighting the Nomu that rose from the ground, the Nomu suddenly turned towards Tamura. Mo quickly informed Enji that the Nomu were heading his way, but didn't notice a huge worm-like Nomu about to eat her. A huge slab of granite folded over the Nomu, crushing it. Ha 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 ha. A familiar, hearty laugh echoed. The Nomu flew towards Tsunagu, determined to kill him. They didn't notice the figure that hitched a ride on one of them. Right before the closet Nomu attacked, they exploded. Everybody looked on in shock and awe as the man landed down on the ground, standing proud with a huge grin. Have no fear, Toshinori yelled, because I am here. All Might. Everybody screamed in horror or relief, or both in Enji's case. Toshinori shot from Nomu to Nomu, reshaping the ground to launch himself and defeating each Nomu with a single touch. Each movement was accompanied by him shouting smash after various American states and cities that he was yet to use. Tuya embraced Shoto, determined to burn them both to ashes as Enji watches. Black Whip shot between them. The cables around Gigantomachia all snapped at once. Enji shot towards Gigantomachia's head, knocking himself out. But right after, Gigantomachia couldn't find enough strength to continue and collapsed. Tsunagu restrained Gigantomachia, before switching his attention to the other league members. This cannot be where our performance ends, Atsuhiro declared, trying to reach the cables but only finding himself capable of touching himself. The spotlight is mine now. It's time for these Philistines to witness the greatest show on earth. He touched his butt cheek, turning it into a marble. Ah, he screamed, but pushed through to move his arm out of the binds. He then touched Tamura and Shuichi, turning them both into marbles. Tsunagu controlled the fabrics of Atsuhiro's clothes. Atsuhiro touched his body, ripping more of it apart, but tearing away his clothes. He then marbled Tomoyasu. After Tuya beat Shoto, Atsuhiro marbled him as well. Toshinori shot towards Atsuhiro. At least, center stage. Atsuhiro declared, ripping off his mask. Time for Mr. Compress's once-in-a-lifetime escape act. He threw the marble that contained Tamura and Shuichi, the other two marbles tucked in Shuichi's scarf. Toshinori punched Atsuhiro and went for Shuichi. Shuichi noticed one of Tamura's hands in his suit and quickly placed it on Tamura's face. Tamura opened his eyes and a storm of radio waves exploded out of him, blasting Toshinori and Atsuhiro back. More Nomu ran towards Tamura. The remaining heroes working to fight them off. Toshinori went after Tamura. All for one. Rivets flew towards Toshinori, which he dodged. Your new quirk is powerful, all might, all for one, said through Tamura. But you're inexperienced with it. The rivets turned around and stabbed Toshinori from behind. I have no patience for attacks I can predict. Another storm of radio waves shot down the remaining heroes. Now, time to go. The Nomu grabbed Tamura and Shuichi and started running away. Mirio and Toshinori ran after the Nomu. I'll see you soon, all for one said, raising Tamura's hand for one final radio wave attack. The Nomu escaped with the remaining members of the League of Villains. Jack looks to Izuku. How did we lose? We had overwhelming power. Izuku looks away, face dark. There were many factors involved. But mostly, this was a battle of knowledge of skill and strategy. And, I hate to say it, but there's been a flaw in our strategy from the start. And that is, splitting our power into 3 personas. Vampire and Lantern are too underpowered compared to Ghost. And Ghost has weaknesses that the others could have helped with. So, what are you suggesting? We just reveal to the world that the 3 of us are the same entity. We can't do that. It would have bigger ramifications than when the world found out I am Lifeline, I was Flatline. No, I'm not, but, I have an idea. The day after the news of Tartarus's fall, Izuku stood in the middle of the destroyed city as news helicopters flew overhead. He was in the Lantern suit. He heard footsteps behind him and turned to see the Flatline suit. Are you ready, Jack? I should ask you, you're the one who's about to get hurt. Izuku chuckled half-heartedly. I guess you're right. His head detached as green flames ignited from his body. Do you think we should get stitches like Tuya after this? That would weaken us. Jack pulled out his daggers. We're trying to do the opposite. Let's do this. Fire and blood. The two exchanged blows, trying to make it look like they were engaged in a serious battle. Izuku burned away at Jack's left side as Jack stabbed Izuku's right with both real weapons, and one's made of blood. Chunks seemed to be completely destroyed as they turned to slime. Eventually both of them looked like they should be dead, but like undead, they continued. Once Izuku had finally let out all his rage, he signaled Jack for the finale. I've had my catharsis. Once we do this, I'm going to do things my way. Jack said, releasing the safety on his suit. It's not like the Commission can stop me with their current state. As long as All for One is gone. Izuku sprinted full speed at Jack, green flame engulfing him as if he were using Flashfire Fist, Prominence Burn. Jack detonated his suit's bomb. This bomb wasn't the usual one, but was instead pyrotechnics designed by Mei to look like the real bomb. The two of them scattered their remaining body parts. Then, once the smoke cleared, the body parts slid along the ground into a pile that coalesced into a figure resembling Izuku. He looked to the helicopters before shooting off into the darkness of the night. Later, Izuku and Jack split again at Heights Alliance. Izuku went to sleep as Jack put on a spare Flatline suit. They turned invisible and flew out of Ua. Goto jumped from building to building in the middle of an already collapsing city. He noticed Yo and Tatami on the ground and stood above them. Let's go. I'm ready to play. It's just you two wimps. Damn, I'm gonna need more. Don't you have some powerful friends? Tatami. Yo instructed. Call Miss Joke and tell her we need backup. And evacuate civilians. He drew his sword. What will you do? She asked as she ran off. Crush this guy. Goto slammed Yo into a building, pinning him with an arm. Are you kidding? I was hoping you were going to make this worthwhile. Goto looked around. Don't they always say that if you see one hero, there are 10 more nearby? He noticed Tatami with a group of civilians. Ah, what do you know? I found them. Yo touched Goto's muscular arm and used vibrate. It's not going to work. I'm got 12,000 layers of muscle fiber acting as armor. A little massage isn't going to break through to my actual body. Is that so? Yo asked, before using his full power. The most important thing a hero can do, is have the fortitude to keep fighting. I'm going to shake your brain right out of your head. Goto reinforced his head with more muscles. In that case, I guess it's not a bad idea. He pressed down harder. You feel that? He pulled back, readying himself to punch. It's a blood frenzy. Goto was hit by a projectile from behind, slamming into another building. Muscular, Jack said, no longer using Izuku's voice. He picked up Yo. Flatline. Goto grinned. placing a rock in his eye socket. I met your brother. He jumped to the base of the building Jack was on, flipping it. Let's not hold anything back. Show me your blood. Jack jumped off the building. They quickly made their way to Tatami to hand over Yo. They then quickly ran away from Tatami and the civilians she was with. Goto jumped towards Jack. Where the hell are you going? Jack cushioned Goto's punch with shock absorption, one for all, and a shield made of blood. Where's All for One and Shigaraki? I know they broke you out. Who cares? They told me I should go wild and live how I want, which is how I live anyway. Talking is so boring. Let's cut to the good stuff. I live for the adrenaline. As Goto went to punch Jack, Jack bit him. Goto went limp. What the hell? If you don't know, then I have no use for you. Jack picked up Goto by his head. The two of them were engulfed in green flames. Jack dropped Goto. Goto's body thudded to the ground, sizzling black oozing from his charred skull. Jack hid in an alley, looking between the files they got from Kagero's computer regarding a drug den and the location of the den. Once they confirmed that the building was correct, they took note of the building having security cameras and decided to break in. They ran forward, shoulder checking the door. On the other side was a corridor. Alarms sounded as guards made their way to where Jack was. Jack filled the corridor with fire. Jack quickly looked into each room, not finding anything strange until they noticed a safe. They broke the safe open and inside were syringes filled with liquid. The syringes were labeled test. Jack then heard the sound of a helicopter starting on the roof. Shit. More guards made their way into the room Jack was in. I wonder if this is Trigger. Let's find out. Jack quickly spun around and threw a syringe at one of the guards. The guard blinked as the syringe stabbed through his eyelid and into his eye. Bullseye. The guard screamed, but instead of having any apparent increase in quirk strength, his other eye dilated and his screaming slowly subsided. Guess it's not Trigger. Good to know. The other guards pointed their guns at Jack and fired. Jack raised a blood shield before dashing at each and punching them into a wall. One of the guards got back up. That ain't gonna work. I got a hardening quirk. He ran at Jack. Good to know. Jack grabbed the man, blasted fire at the roof to weaken it and jumped through it, landing on the rooftop where the helicopter had started flying off. Jack held the guard by his arms and hammered through him at the helicopter, hitting its blades. The helicopter exploded, the wreckage crashing. Out of the wreckage crawled the guard and a very bloody woman who was wearing an extravagant dress, likely the boss. The guard raised his fists and ran at Jack. Jack punched through the guard's head, a fistful of brain matter in their hand as it emerged from the other side. Jack squeezed and pulled their hand back through. Jack looked to the woman. Where are All for One and Shigaraki? Fuck you, the woman said. Jack kicked her in the head, snapping her neck. I'm good, thanks. Jack looked down from a rooftop at the center of a new city, rain pouring down. A purple and pink bullet flew towards Jack. Right before it hit them, Jack caught it between his index and middle finger. Good thing I can literally keep one of my eyes on the back of my head. They used the direction it was facing to narrow down where to find the sniper's location. Don't move a muscle and I'll let you keep your limbs, Kana said. Jack backflipped off the building, sailing over the next bullet. They sprinted through the streets. Why bother running when you're already mine? Kana shot a curved bullet that flew around a building before heading towards Jack. Jack made a shield out of blood, the bullet piercing through but losing enough momentum for shock absorption to stop it. Jack continued racing through the city, a bullet zoomed at them from behind. They quickly ducked. The sniper changed position. Jack looked back and noticed Kana running on air. I see. She has more than one quirk. Well, so do we. Hell flame. Fire ignited from Jack's feet and they began to fly towards Kana. Jack flew towards Kana, who shot multiple bullets. Half hot. The fire on Jack's left half burned even brighter, making him do an actual barrel roll. Kana noticed Jack's left side ignited and remembered that All for One said that Izuku could likely make the fire on his left side stronger by using half hot, half cold. She used that knowledge to fire a series of bullets that would hit Jack if Jack spun again. Jack tilted their head back and breathed fire, doing a loop-the-loop, which not only dodged the bullets but let them gain extra momentum. They grabbed Kana by the left arm. Tell me where All for One is. You think you've beaten me? Not a chance. Kaina's rifle arm transformed, slamming into Jack, who didn't flinch. Fuck, she stared into Jack's eyes. You're the Commission's new pawn, aren't you? Are they having you kill for them like they did me? In return for a faux-free life, you're the puppet on their strings. Kaina pointed her rifle arm to a nearby building, upon which was Kai. She fired at Kai before switching back to Jack. Jack kicked the rifle, smashing it. Kaina's face started cracking before she exploded. Jack quickly jumped away before Kaina blew up. 2 months from now, a mansion in Hybori Woods. Jack looked to Kaina, the rain pouring on Izuku's face matching Jack's own emotions. A puppet. Jack then looked to the building Kai was on and jumped over to see Kai bleeding out. Jack looked between Kaina and Kai one last time. They then sent a distress call to Keigo, telling him to come to the location. 2 months later, Jack walked into the mansion Kaina mentioned. They couldn't see anybody inside. Izuku Midoriya, all for one's voice said from a speaker. I do hope you enjoyed your heart-to-heart with the lovely Lady Nagant. A hologram appeared from the speaker. If you're seeing this, it means she relayed my instructions. And I remain a step ahead of you. I knew a righteous soul like yourself would never abandon a lost soul like her. The speaker continued before exploding. Jack stood before Dictator. Such impatience and anxiety, Dictator said. You wish to fight alone. Yet, you don't show the exhaustion your body is feeling. Behind Dictator, attached to him with strings, were countless civilians, each holding a weapon. There's power in numbers, and if I take you into the fold, my future is secure. Dictator started pulling on the strings, making the civilians raise their weapons and attack Jack. Enough, Izuku yelled before running through the civilians using permeation and knocking Dictator out. The civilians quickly scattered. With Izuku was the rest of 1A, as well as Katsuki and Hitoshi. Why are you here? Jack asked. Izuku looked away. To take down a villain. I've seen through my eye, heard through my ear. You've been murdering. And for what? Because they don't know where All for One is. You and I know if you really wanted to find All for One, you could use search. And even if you couldn't, justice means appropriate punishment for the crime. And whose way has been more effective? Ever since I properly took on the moniker of Flatline, I've taken down countless villains, far more than you ever have. You've gotten your catharsis, now it's my turn. When we merged Lantern and Vampire, the battle was fake. This time, we'll do it for real. Whoever wins, we go with their way. Then it's a good thing I've been saving this. Jack pulled a syringe out of their suit and injected the contents into their neck. Jack's eyes dilated. Izuku began to feel lightheaded before the world seemed to rotate. He stumbled over. That's one down. Next, I want to properly get my revenge. With a single step, Jack appeared in front of Katsuki, winding him with a punch. Whose quirk is weak? Jack punched. Whose quirk is weak? Mine, Katsuki said. That's our. Jack stopped. Got them, Hitoshi said. Hitoshi and Honta walked forward to wrap Jack up until green sparks ignited around Jack, building up until the air around them exploded. The explosion hit Katsuki, Hitoshi, and Honta, as well as Kyoka's eardrums. Black smoke expanded out of Jack, out of which shot knives that stabbed into Tsuyu, Tenya and Ochako. That takes care of the most mobile ones. They looked to Himiko who was crouching over a convulsing Izuku. Are you going to drink his blood yet, or do I have to take out all of your classmates? Mashirao, Eijiro, and Rikido dashed forward. Mashirao slammed his tail into Jack as Eijiro used his jagged fists to punch Jack, making them bleed. Rikido suplexed Jack. Jack grabbed Rikido's sides and squeezed, causing Rikido enough pain to make him let go. Jack flipped back around and grabbed Mashirao's tail and swung him into Eijiro. A shock ran through Jack's body, followed by the sizzling sound of acid. Jack was unfazed. You're only hurting Izuku. They looked to Denki and Mina. Just leave. A swarm of birds flew in, trying to distract Jack. Jack responded with a single clap that scared them all off, and worsened Kyoka's condition. Jack wrapped up Mezzo in dark shadow and threw him. Shoto quickly made an iceberg to catch Mezzo. A projectile slammed into Jack before exploding, blowing them back. More projectile were shot at Jack, who flipped over them. Jack detached their hand, using dark shadow to let it hang like a ball and chain. Jack spun around with stockpile and super strength, letting dark shadows reach extend, making their fists' momentum increase until they released it and it slammed into the ground near Momo, creating a shockwave that blasted apart her cannons and knocked her out. Jack was engulfed in flames. Unlike the green flames, the brighter regular flames weakened Black Shadow. Jack was then engulfed in ice. Jack activated their fire quirks and stockpile, created immense amounts of heat that melted the ice enough for a slight movement to shatter the iceberg. Jack was engulfed in Dark Shadow, this time from Fumikage. Jack used their fire, but the green fire is already not as bright as Shoto's, and Jack couldn't make as much fire due to breaking the iceberg overworking Jack's fire quirks. Fuck. This Dark Shadow is better. Jack yelled. That's our. Dark Shadow started before freezing. Restrain Fumikage. Dark Shadow released Jack and attacked Fumikage. Shoto flew into attack again before being punched by a fist flying back to Jack's hand. A flash of light shot Jack, knocking them over. Jack pumped towards Yuga, picking him up by his hair. A knife stabbed through Jack's chest from behind. You have the left side, Toru said. That means you have Izuku's heart. Have fun copying Naval Laser. Mademoiselle, please don't make my quirk sound like a burden, even if it's true. Jack pushed the knife out and used stockpile and regeneration to fix their heart. By the way, this guy is probably the traitor. As the two looked at each other in shock, Jack suplexed Yuga, slamming him into Toru. A fist smashed into Jack's face, making them fly across the floor. You've finally joined the fight. Jack looked to Himiko. The others agreed to weaken you to make up for my inexperience. Himiko responded. If you use any lantern or vampire powers, the deal's off. Jack quickly swung a punch at Himiko before she had a chance to use permeation. Himiko flipped back into a standing position, wiping off the blood. She shot forward. Jack threw knives at Himiko. Himiko caught the knives with telekinesis and threw them back with poltergeist. Jack dodged the knives which suddenly floated up before shooting back down at Jack. Jack blocked the knives with a blood shield. Himiko took the distraction as a chance to slam into Jack. She then covered them in ice. She then screamed, yeah. She fell to a knee as she held her throat in pain. Jack slowly got up. Their clothes starts tightening. What? Jack tried to fight back, but couldn't find the strength after overusing their quirks so much. They looked around not seeing anybody who could be controlling their clothes. Got ya, Izuku said, lying down behind Himiko, immobile, but instead of it being due to drugs, it's due to him using mimicry, powered up by stockpile. I win. Jack sighed. Fine. Izuku stood in front of 1A, 1B, and Mei. Jack stood next to Izuku. Also in the room were Shota, Skidryo, Enji, Keigo, and Tsunagu. We're going to make a final stand. Flatline and I are going to boost our power one last time, but that means I'm going to need support gear to keep me regenerating. Izuku looked to Mei, who nodded in response. First, we wish to copy 3 quirks from my fellow students and 3 quirks from the pro heroes. Izuku looked to 1A. Koji, are you okay with me dying in front of you? Koji looked hesitant, but slowly nodded before walking in front of everybody else. Koji looked away. Izuku walked over to Koji before Jack turned off his regeneration and Izuku quickly killed himself. Several minutes later, Izuku woke back up. He then looked to 1B. Jirota. Jirota walked forward next and again Izuku killed himself before waking up some time later. Tetsu. Tetsu looked confused but walked forward to let Izuku copy his quirk. When Izuku finished with being dead, he looked to the pro heroes. Mr. Aizawa. Jack looked hesitant at copying erasure. Shota didn't care and walked forward to get the copying over with. Izuku woke up, coughing up blood as he did so. Yep, thought that might happen, I was already over my limit. Best genus next please. Tsunagu walked forward. Are you sure you need more quirks? Shigaraki could have hundreds. Okay then. Izuku woke up slowly, his body aching. Last one. Hawks. Remember our deal? Keigo asked. I do. Izuku responded. Izuku woke up for the last time. Hawks, your wings don't need to worry about how much they weigh. They fly through telekinesis and a single full-sized feather can carry an entire person with ease. So, I copied a quirk that I think would be a perfect upgrade for you. Izuku plucked a feather from his new wings. Eat this. Keigo raised an eyebrow before smirking and eating the feather. What now? Jack walked over to Keigo. Now you have 2 new quirks. 2. Izuku and Keigo asked in unison. Yoichi and I let you keep transfer before because you used it selflessly, Izuku. This time, not so much. Plus, you would have died if you didn't find another regeneration quirk. With 27 quirks, you're still in constant pain, but I can lower how much pain you feel. Jack then looked to Keigo. Your other quirk is steel. By the way, you can turn your skin and feathers into solid steel now. Wait, so I can no longer give my quirks away? Izuku asked. Nope, fuck you. I was giving quirks to people in need, and since both I and Hawks have fierce wings now, I can't copy it back. Jack smirked and walked away. Izuku sighed before looking to Mei. Can I get a costume upgrade that will allow me to take advantage of Fiber Master? I have just the thing. Later, Izuku visited the support lab to pick up his new costume. It consisted of strands of fabric made of the same material of Shota's scarf mixed with Izuku's hair, dyed black and glowing green. The strands are placed over a green and black suit that slows down Izuku as little as possible. Finally, replacing Izuku's full helmet is a black and green face mask and sunglasses stylized like the eyes of Ra and Horus. The mask had 2 feeding tubes, one for his blood and the other for stem cells. The monocle could switch between night vision, infrared, and telescopic vision. Going for a mummy theme. I thought your costume should reflect your desire to look undead, unlike your original, Mei replied. A mummy fits the Fiber Master requirement, and not only does it have an undead theme, but a mummy is a king of undeath, or an angel of death when you include your new wings with the costume. Will it explode? It shouldn't, unless you want it to, Mei said, looking at the bomb on the chest. Don't worry, I tested it, Higuri said. It should work the same as your old suit. The pro heroes and the hero study students readied themselves for the final battle. They stood in a large circle with what looked like an abandoned building in the middle, far enough away so that if Tamura used decay, they could retreat. Tomoko and Izuku had pinpointed the location of All for One and Tamura. They determined that the League of Villains were gathered together and decided it was now or never. Izuku turned invisible before he and Mirio flew inwards, phasing through the building. They noticed a wave of decay already beginning and shot towards its epicenter. They saw Tamura, who was wearing a gas mask. Izuku quickly used erasure to stop decay. They're here, Tamura said. The room started filling with blue flames. Izuku quickly grabbed Tamura and used him as a battering ram as he flew through the ceiling, flying high above the building. He threw Tamura high into the air, using a mix of his super strength and wings. Mirio clapped, creating a shockwave that put out the flames. An enormous arm covered in drill-like bones and rivets slammed into Mirio. You need to turn corporeal to use your super strength, All for One said. And that's all I needed to beat you. Lemillion. All for One brought his arm to his mouth and licked it. Mirio collapsed. An extra something I stole during the breakout at Tartarus. All for One walked towards Mirio. Now, come to me. One for all. All for One reached for Mirio, but Mirio suddenly shot away from him and back through the window. Izuku moved his fingers, sending Mirio all the way back to the rest of the heroes by controlling his clothes. The heroes who could fly created a dome around the building as the others ran into towards the building. Izuku turned his attention back to Tamura. Tamura had almost fallen back down to where Izuku was, coming in at terminal velocity. Izuku shot his arm up, piercing Tamura. I have to keep you off the ground. Then I need to clip your wings, Tamura said, reaching for Izuku's face. Jack flew out of Izuku using Dark Shadow and engulfed Tamura. Tamura felt his power return as the black smoke obscured Izuku's view of him. I win. He reached for the smoke and touched it with all 5 fingers, but nothing happened. What? Your quirk needs you to touch the same object with all 5 fingers to activate, but Dark Shadow as a fluid is like a trillion tiny objects. Izuku said before being engulfed in blue flames. The smoke dissipated and Tamura and Izuku plummeted. You're too much of a nuisance, Chuya said. Steel wings pierced Chuya as Keigo flew in, followed by Enji and Shoto. Back to the family reunion. Chuya asked. Chuya, come back home. Shoto pleaded. Chuya pointed towards Shoto before shooting a spear of blue flames. No. Enji grabbed Chuya from behind. We're not asking, son. Chuya engulfed himself in flames, destroying his own gas mask. Shoto put out the flames by encasing Chuya in ice which quickly melted. Hazashi ran to the front of the abandoned building before taking a deep breath. Yeah. The building collapsed. Radio waves radiated out, knocking down Hazashi and any other nearby heroes. Shota ran towards the collapsed building, readying himself to erasure the quirks of any villains that emerged. The rubble rumbled as Gigantomachia broke through the building's basement. The big one's here, Shota informed. Metallic threads shot at Gigantomachia as Tsunagu ran into the scene, determined to restrain Gigantomachia once and for all. Blade-like teeth shot through Tsunagu. Flesh. Shit. Tsunagu coughed blood. Moonfish. Shota turned around and erased Moonfish's quirk. The rubble behind Shota moved before a hand reached for him. And now, erasure is mine, All for One thought. A laser blasted All for One away from Shota. Yuga quickly ran out of sight before All for One retaliated. Shuichi, who was also wearing a gas mask, drew his blade and jumped down from the nearby building he was clung to, aiming for Shota. Dirt golems ran in to guard Shota. The wild pussycats are here to help, Ryoko Tsuchikawa announced as Yuara ran in to restrain Shuichi. Smoke started filling the area. Shota realized the villains were using gas masks. It's Mustard's gas. The gas started swirling around before forming a tornado. Good thing air is my domain, right? Inasa asked. A bullet shot towards Inasa. It went through him, but he seemed unfazed. What? Mustard asked, looking out from his hiding place. Sorry, honey, Kami's voice said. All villains have been spotted. Mei announced. Artillery is ready. Momo responded. Trajectories calculated. Seiko and Nezu said. Fire. Eijiro, Rikido, Mezzo, Jirota, Tetsu all pulled 2 pull strings each, firing 10 artillery turrets aimed at the villains. Ballistic missiles shot forward. The first 2 flew towards Shuichi and Mustard, both of whom ran away fast enough to be almost untouched by the following explosions. The third hit Moonfish before exploding, knocking him out. A 4th missile flew towards Chuya, who melted it. 4 missiles shot towards Gigantomachia and Tamura, both of whom tanked the explosions. The final 2 were aimed for but were knocked off path by a shockwave and hit the ground, further breaking it up. Izuku used his wings to keep Tamura in the air whilst Izuku kept falling. Jack ran in, stopping right under Izuku. Izuku landed on Jack and the 2 combined. From the outside it looked like Izuku possessed Flatline. Let's show them full power. Izuku shot back up, combining Hell Flame, Lizard Tail Splitter, Permeation, Stockpile, Super Strength, and Zero Gravity to boost his speed as much as possible before slamming into Tamura. Now that I'm whole, not only can I justify using all of my quirks, but I'm not held down by keeping quirks like Lizard Tail Splitter and Transform constantly active. He erased Tamura's quirk. Izuku combined Fiber Master with Mimicry, Poltergeist Stockpile, and Telekinesis to tie Tamura up in Izuku's costume strands as intricately as possible. Swarms of flying animals flew in. The swarm was made up of birds, insects, and bats. To me, friends, Izuku commanded. Attack Tamura. The swarm surrounded Tamura, bombarded him. They couldn't scratch him, but they could distract him. 2 giant feet landed on Gigantomachia, slamming him into the ground. Bastard, Yu shouted. Gigantomachia, All for One said. Kill all the heroes. Gigantomachia roared before grabbing at Yu's legs. Yu grabbed Gigantomachia's arm, pinning it. Ryoko Tatsuma flew in and grabbed Gigantomachia's other arm. Master, I'm sorry, Gigantomachia said. All for One pointed a finger at the 2 giant women pinning Gigantomachia. Before he could fire, his arms and body were wrapped in threads, elongated arms, and an elongated body. All for One is restrained, Shinya said, nodding to Tsunagu and Yuara. And I've erased his quirks, Shota added. Behind his back, he grabbed a pistol. He quickly pointed the pistol at All for One. When Gigantomachia saw Shota point a gun at All for One, he gained hysterical strength and flipped Yu over his back, throwing her at Shota. Ectoplasm quickly ran onto the scene, turned giant, and jumped on top of Gigantomachia. All for One blasted radio waves out, knocking back Shinya, Tsunagu, and Yuara. He walked towards Shota. 2 lips, eyes, and hands flew next to him. Blood spears shot out of the hands, piercing all for one. The hands made finger guns. Bang! Enormous kanji appeared, blasting all for one back. Bang! A stronger blast happened. Bang! An enormous blast hit all for one. Bang! 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 Numerous enormous kanji appeared, hitting all for one with just as many explosions. Twin impact, the fingers on the right hand snapped. All for one was hit by an enormous blast as strong as all the previous ones combined, sending flying into a fist. All for one, Izuku shouted, punching all for one again. Lifeline, all for one asked. No, he's in the sky, you're Toga. You got that right. Himiko cheered before slamming all for one into the ground by using Beast, Dark Shadow, Stockpile and Super Strength. All for one tried to grab Himiko, but passed right through her, and none of his quirks were working. Himiko bent all for one's arms back until they snapped. We've restrained your lackeys and separated all for one and yourself, Izuku said. You can't use your abilities, quirk or otherwise. Give up. Tamura, you've lost. Blue flames shot at Izuku, who blasted them back at Chuya. At this point, Chuya was looking more like the embodiment of blue flames than a person on fire. Izuku looked down, noticing Keigo, Enji, and Shoto falling. Shit. Like a fractal, hands grew from the tips of Tamura's fingers, hands then growing from those fingers, and so on. Countless hands grew on Tamura, reaching for Izuku. One for all. As Himiko went to hit all for one again, he struck, sending her flying before sending radio waves out to keep her away. Now, to get back to the real fight. Sorry, but this is the real fight, Mirio said, flying in. He grabbed all for one and slammed him into the ground before throwing him back towards the hands all for one is most familiar with. Have no fear, Toshinori announced, getting ready to catch all for one. Because I am. Rivets shot into Toshinori before a wall of fire blocked Toshinori and Mirio from getting closer. I don't think I've ever wanted to take your quirks more. Yet another wave of the radio length shot out from all for one. Chuya and Tamura attacked Izuku from either side, the heat from Chuya searing Izuku's skin. Izuku decided he should focus on defending himself against Chuya whilst Jack keeps Tamura off him. Izuku shot as much ice as he could towards Chuya, but it instantly sublimated. Jack engulfed Tamura's countless arms in dark shadow, like a battle between 2 domain expansions. The animals flying around them were either fried or flew away to escape the intense heat. Chuya took a deep breath and screamed, "Back off." The shockwave sent Chuya flying back. Chuya flipped back around in midair and flew back towards Izuku. A fist flew into Chuya at Mach speed, the result of Himiko copying the move Jack used against Momo. "Back away from my man!" Himiko yelled, her fist returning to her hand. Himiko flew to Izuku's side. Chuya slammed into the ground where Enji and Shoto were almost ready to rejoin the fight. Shoto pushed himself past his limits to create compacted ice with a much higher melting point, determined to stop Chuya. "Shoto, leave an opening," Enji said. "I know," Shoto responded. Toshinori touched the ground, folding it to put out the walls of fire. Mirio shot forward, one for all 100%, gear shift, FA Jin. Mirio punched all for one, sending him flying to Toshinori's feet. Himiko flew behind Tamura and nodded to Izuku. Jack released Dark Shadow. Himiko froze Tamura, trying to weaken him further. Izuku and Himiko slammed Tamura between each other like tennis, using numerous different quirks to keep Tamura on his toes, not allowing him to figure out a way of escaping Izuku's gaze. A syringe shot into Tamura, stealing some of his blood before retracting back to Himiko's costume. She quickly drank the blood, paralyzing Tamura. Izuku pulled out a pistol and shot Tamura before feeling the effect of overusing his quirks and plummeting. Himiko quickly grabbed both him and Tamura before using Beast which, when combined with shock absorption and stockpile, provided enough shock absorption to soften their landing. She placed down Tamura, who then awoke. Tamura grabbed her face, but nothing happened. Even when he squeezed, her shock absorption was enough to stop him from killing her. "What? We erased your quirks," Izuku said, listening to his comms as he stood up. Enji pulled out a pistol and shot Chuya, whose flames subsided. What? Chuya asked. Where are my flames? Gone, Shoto said. Reduced to ashes. Toshinori pulled out his pistol and shot all for one before touching him to regenerate his body so that he doesn't die from his injuries. Is it over? Himiko asked Izuku. Izuku let his body relax. He turned to Himiko. Is this a good answer to your question? He fell to one knee. The end. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and now we will see you in the next video.